Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Fantasy. It turns out that I am a peerless god of war. Chapter 91. Very good. The three martial arts nodded with satisfaction. It's just the three adults, since they are here now. Mao Lin looked at the three of them expectantly, and asked cautiously, then trouble the three adults to take action to solve them right away. Don't worry, it's just some waste. After drinking this jug of wine, there is no rush to deal with them. The martial arts expert gently weighed the jug and poured a glass of wine for Mao Lin himself. Okay, then I'll accompany the three adults to finish drinking this pot of wine, haha. Seeing the three of them so relaxed and indifferent, Mao Lin simply relaxed. In order to make the three martial arts more satisfied, more than a dozen maids were called in to help. There was continuous laughter in the hall, singing and dancing rose to the sky. Sir, this wine of mine is the strongest wine I have found at your request. Mao Lin said with a smile. Well, very good, this wine is very exciting. One of the martial arts masters stood up, patted Mao Lin on the shoulder, and at the same time, his cunning palms did not forget to rub twice on the maid's body. Soon, the drinks on the table were swept away. The three martial arts masters stood up slowly with a hint of drunkenness, and then said to Mao Lin and his son, Go out first to help you deal with the person Yi Feng called, and then we will come back and have a drink. Quote. Heard. Mao Lin's father and son couldn't help but smile. This time, not only will the crisis of his Chamber of Commerce be solved, but it is likely to solve the problem from the source and directly kill the Baofeng Chamber of Commerce. The most important thing is that there are three major martial arts masters to support, and there is no need to be afraid of what trouble Qingshanmen will find. The three martial arts masters were in front, and Mao Lin and his son were behind, all walked towards the door with smiles on their faces. Third brother, it's just a bunch of rubbish, brother, we too will not do it, you can solve it alone. When going out, one of the martial arts said to the other. Don't worry, brother, they won't be able to call any powerful people. I won't bother the two brothers with such a trivial matter. I will solve it by myself. The Wu Ling said. It is good. Ha ha. With the arrogant laughter of the three, the group finally walked out of the door. However, the moment they walked out the door, the souls of the three martial arts masters suddenly softened. Almost stumbled to the ground. The first to appear in front of them were dozens of pairs of eye-catching eyes, and the owners of these eyes were all standing in the sky, exuding a strong sense of coldness. What made the three martial spirits desperate the most was that none of the masters of these dozens of eyes were weaker than them. Ow! At the same time, accompanied by a series of roars of monsters, a large number of flying monsters attacked, hovering high in the sky, above the monsters, sitting on top of each other, all dressed in armor, powerful masters, just waiting for an order, they can strike instantly. Kill, kill, kill. And in an invisible place, there were bursts of deafening voices at the same time. It was the voice of countless disciples of Qingshan sect. Although no one could be seen, just hearing the voice gave people a heavy pressure. It seemed that the Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce would be leveled in the next moment. Of course, the one that made the three of them most dreaded was the old man above the sky holding a kitchen knife. The kitchen knife exudes a long light. And he, with fluttering hair, stands in the sky, just standing there, he can stand up to thousands of troops. Looking at such a lineup, the three martial arts masters shivered, and the drunkenness on their bodies suddenly woke up, and drops of cold sweat fell from the top of their heads. And Mao Lin and his son were shocked when they saw such a lineup. Although they had a good position among mortals, they had never seen such a lineup. President, what should I do? Yes, President. Are there so many of them? They look scary, think of a way. At this time, other people from the Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce also rushed over, surrounded by Mao Lin, and voices of concern were heard. Mao Lin also frowned. However, when I remembered that the three martial arts masters were sitting next to them, father and son, I regained my confidence. So he raised his chest and shouted softly to the people in the Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce. What are you panicking about? Don't be impatient, although there are many of them, but we have three martial arts masters in charge. In the eyes of the three of them, only it's just a silver gun wax head. As he said that, he looked at the three major martial arts with a smile on his face, and said with a smile, three adults, you said what I said is right, you must be able to deal with them easily, right? Mao Lin's question immediately made the face of the three martial arts masters turn red, and the muscles on his face couldn't help but twitch. In his heart, he had the heart to kill Mao Lin. His mother is blind, isn't she? You can't see what lineup on the opposite side. The effect of this lineup is put together, not to mention the three martial arts of them, even the three martial kings would have to be planted here. For a long time, the three of them couldn't say a word. There is only one thought in my mind, that is, to draw a clear line with the Pingjiang Chamber of Commerce as soon as possible, and then run away. This matter, this lineup, they can't afford it. The three adults. However, Mao Lin spoke again without opening his eyes, blinked his eyes, and cast his inquiring eyes. I am your mother. Wu Ling, headed by him, slapped Mao Lin's face with a slap in the face, making his eyes glow with gold stars, and said at the same time, President Mao, we've finished shopping, let's go first. Obviously, they said this because they wanted people from Qingshanmen to think that the three of them were here to buy things. After speaking, the three martial spirits glanced at each other quickly, and then they were about to leave. They quickly walked to the door, and no one stopped them. This made the three of them secretly relieved, and a smug smile appeared on their faces. But just as he was about to escape, Mao Lin, who was slapped before he reacted, suddenly heard a voice. Three adults, what do you mean? You didn't swear just now that you would help us get rid of these people, why did you suddenly let us go? Gah! These words from Mao Lin suddenly changed the faces of the three major martial arts spirits. Not daring to stop at all, the martial spirit aura on the three of them suddenly erupted, and as soon as the soles of their feet chopped off the ground, they wanted to fly away. But they had just swept out, and an extremely dangerous aura shrouded them. Looking back, I saw Lu Qingshan standing in the sky with a big wave, and the kitchen knife in his hand burst into a dazzling light, and then let go. Between the skies, the light that the kitchen knife turned into became bigger and bigger, and finally reached 100 feet and slashed horizontally. Boom, boom. With the sound of a series of sonic booms, countless buildings collapsed with a bang, and the sword light left a ravine hundreds of long in front of the three martial arts, and the dust rose into the sky. The three major martial arts were in a cold sweat, and looking at the power of this kitchen knife, they were even more stunned in place. Obviously, the ravine in front of them is nothing to them, and it can even be easily passed, but now it has become a chasm that they dare not cross. Because he knew that if he moved one more step, the kitchen knife would probably land on top of their heads. This knife is really terrifying. It seems that the three of you are also involved in this matter. High in the sky, old ancestor Qingshan's sharp eyes suddenly came over, and a majestic voice came out. At the same time as he spoke, the other eyes of Qingshanmen also looked over. With these gazes, the three martial spirits were horrified. Under the pressure of this gathering of people, Rao, the three martial arts masters, couldn't stand it, and almost collapsed. Mao Lin, I call your grandma. Finally, in a fit of rage, one of the martial spirits turned back and yelled at Mao Lin. If it wasn't for her eyesight, they would have fled long ago if she said that at a critical moment. I'm asking you, are you also involved in this matter? Old ancestor Qingshan ignored them, and the voice of persuasion came out again. Knowing that this matter cannot be avoided, the three major martial arts can only face it directly, so he simply said with anger, yes, we did mix it up. But so what? Even if the three of us are not your opponents, but if you really want to take action against us, you have to weigh our identities. Oh, old ancestor Qingshan narrowed his eyes slightly. We are members of the Nansha Zodian gang. You have to understand that when I was at its peak, it was not something you could compare with Qingshanmen. That Wu Ling raised his arrogant eyes and said in a deep voice, even if it's down now. Quite a lot, the Zodian gang can't compare to your Qingshanmen, but the thin dead camel is bigger than a horse. If you really want to touch us, you have to weigh it. With that said, the three major martial spirits showed a tendency to be fearless. At the beginning, I was really shocked by the lineup of Qingshanmen, but when I remembered that there was the Zhuangtian gang as the backing, Qingshanmen really dared to attack them when they were not seen. And Mao Lin finally understood that the three martial spirits in front of him were not the opponents of the Qingshanmen. When he heard the words of the three, his face filled with light again. After all, they are also grasshoppers on a rope now. If I want to touch you. Old ancestor Qingshan's pupils shrank slightly, Sen Lang said. Then I will never give up. After all, we are the elders of the Zodian gang. That Wu Ling threatened without hesitation. Unless, you risk your Qingshanmen and my Zodian gang to start a sect war. Risk. Do it to us. Very good. Old ancestor Qingshan's face flashed, and he couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry. But the next moment, he waved his palm, and the rolling voice spread across the sky. Listen to my order. Leave the 18 guardians to guard here, and the rest will be led by Zhu Yun to set off quickly, and within a day, I will destroy the bombing gang. What? Would have. Hearing the words, the three fearless martial spirits suddenly changed their expressions, staring at the ancestors of Qingshan. You. For a trivial matter of a mortal, you actually want to destroy my exploding heaven gang, how could it be, how dare you? HMPH, why not dare? Lu Qingshan was furious. Not to mention that today's Zodian gang is not as good as his Qingshanmen. Even if the Zodian gang in its heyday dared to offend the gentleman, he would dare to touch it with a kitchen knife. With Lu Qingshan's order, the army of Qingshanmen suddenly opened. What? The three martial arts masters of the sky bombing gang suddenly widened their eyes. He thought that Lu Qingshan was just releasing a sentence, but he didn't expect to actually put it into action. And after the Qingshanmen army opened, Lu Qingshan groaned again. Following his order, the 18 guardians who were left behind besieged the three martial arts masters. 18 guardians, but the mainstay of Qingshanmen, the cultivation base has also reached the realm of martial arts, and it is almost no suspense to besiege the three. Ah! 3 screams fell, and the 3 martial spirits were captured alive by the 18 guardians without even taking a dip. Seeing this, Mao Lin and his son were trembling and sweating. I never imagined that the 3 martial spirits they trusted were so vulnerable, even though I knew they were not opponents just by watching them escape, but you can resist. For a time, the father and son's hearts were bursting with throbbing pains. After capturing the 3 martial spirits alive, Lu Qingshan's majestic gaze suddenly turned towards Mao Lin and his son, accompanied by a strong coercion. Crack! Under this coercion, Mao Lin and his son couldn't hold on for a moment, their knees fell directly to the ground, and a look of despair appeared on their faces. It's you who sent someone to hurt Mr. Yi's apprentice? Old ancestor Qingshan asked with a heavy voice. At the same time as he asked, the pressure on his body became more and more intense. It's not me. Under this coercion and fear, Mao Yi's defense line collapsed, and he shouted hysterically, I didn't get involved in this at all, it was him. After speaking, he hurriedly pointed to Mao Lin, and shouted wildly, it's all a good thing that this old man did, and it has nothing to do with me. Seeing his son defecting in battle, Mao Lin's blood attacked his heart, and a mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth. All he did was for Mao Yi's future, but he never thought that Mao Yi would be sold to him in an instant. However, old ancestor Qingshan didn't even bother to watch them bite a dog, and he only thought about how to calm the anger of Mr. Mao, but after hearing what Mao Yi said, old ancestor Qingshan cast his cold eyes on Mao Lin. So, the messenger behind the scenes is you. Hearing this, Mao Lin's face was sluggish and became bloodless. Knowing that he was doomed today, he raised his unwilling eyes to look at the ancestor of Qingshan, and said in a hoarse voice, if I guess correctly, you are the Qingshan of Qingshanmen. Grandpa, right. Old ancestor Qingshan did not speak, but his eyes were still cold. Mao Lin planted his head. Now he can't see where it is, and now it is the Qingshanmen who come out from their nests to attack his small Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce. It's just that he couldn't figure it out, just relying on a small Yifeng, why would it cause such a big response, and even let the ancestors of Qingshan go out of the mountain in person, and the whole mountain gate came out in full force. Who is he? Involuntarily, he gritted his teeth and asked the doubts in his heart. Old ancestor Qingshan showed a disdainful smile and said coldly, although you are not qualified to know the identity of Mr., but I can make you understand. He is not only the savior of my Lu Qingshan and Qingshanmen, but also the senior whom Lu Qingshan admires the most, and he hides his cultivation and comes to this small town to experience life in this small town, but you are a trash. He almost killed his disciple. You said should you die? Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce, should it be destroyed? As soon as the words of Qingshan ancestors fell, it was like a thunderbolt sounded in Mao Lin's mind, his eyes widened, and his eyes flickered with disbelief. In his mind, the phrase hidden cultivation base, entering the world and traveling the world has been lingering. Turns out he was. Also, the most inconvenient thing for you is that Mr. Mingming has given you many opportunities, and even if you take good chances, you can surpass 10,000 people with a little chance, but you are blind. Qingshan, the old ancestor, sneered unceremoniously. Obviously, he knew all about the information of the Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce. PFF. The words of the ancestor Qingshan directly hit the most painful place in Mao Lin's heart. Under the anger, he vomited out another mouthful of blood. Who said no? Originally, he had the opportunity to cooperate with that person and establish a good relationship. But he was buried with one hand. Hatred. Regret it. This is the end of the matter. Go die, and open your eyes a little in the next life. Old ancestor Qingshan no longer had the patience to talk to Mao Lin, and he gently covered his palms, and the huge momentum collapsed. Under this pressure, Mao Lin's meridians were broken, his internal organs were shattered by the shock, and he fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Congratulations, sir, you killed the culprit. On the side, Mao Yi shouted frantically, so sir, you can let me go. Humph, you're even more bad. Old ancestor Qingshan snorted, gave him a mocking look, and with a palm, Mao Yi didn't even have a chance to beg for mercy, so he shot it directly. Broken. The indifferent eyes did not look at them again, and then turned his gloomy eyes to the three martial arts. It's time for you. The three martial spirits showed fear, and threatened, if you dare to touch us, the Zhuangtian gang will not let you go. Is it? Old ancestor Qingshan's face sank, and he directly pinched one of them to death. You actually dare to kill us? Seeing the death of their companions, the other two shouted frantically, do you really think my bombing the Heaven Gang is only as simple as the surface? We promise that everyone in your Qingshan sect will be left without bones, live. Noisy. Lu Qingshan pushed out with two palms, directly killing both of them. Ha ha ha. However, just as Lu Qingshan relaxed, three green smoke drifted out from their bodies. If you can't kill us, come to Zhuangtian to help us find us, we are waiting for you, ha ha ha. The voice fell, and the three green smoke disappeared in a blink of an eye. Old ancestor Qingshan's expression changed greatly. He wanted to pursue him, but he couldn't do it. He never imagined that the three of them still had such a secret technique. Yin Shang. Old ancestor Qingshan shouted quickly. Exist. Yin Shang hurriedly stood by. You bring the heads of Mao Lin and others to Mr. I have to take the lives of these three people. Old ancestor Qingshan ordered. However, what about other people in the Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce who have nothing to do with this matter? Yin Shang asked respectfully. Capture first, don't leave anyone out, and then ask for instructions, sir. After pondering slightly, old ancestor Qingshan said in a deep voice, if the sir says to live, then they will live, if the sir says to kill, then they will die. Yes, Yin Shang quickly complied. After dealing with the affairs of the Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce, Lu Qingshan rushed to the bombing gang with the 18 protectors with a gloomy face. Originally, he was still thinking about whether it would be too hasty to attack the Zodian gang for the sake of these three people. But now it seems that he must go to Zodian to help. Other than that, the lives of these three people must be taken away. This situation is not optimistic. In the martial arts hall, Yi Feng put his palm on Zhang Qing's forehead and frowned. It is clear that he is out of danger, but people just do not wake up. I'm afraid only that medicine can do it. Yi Feng thought for a moment, but it took a lot of things to call out this medicine. It seems that I have to go into the mountain. Thinking of this, Yi Feng showed hatred, and he didn't know how Baofeng Chamber of Commerce would handle things. Sir, it is not disgraceful to the mission. Not only did you execute the culprit, but the entire Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce was also wiped out by us. At this moment, Yin Shang rushed over with someone. When Yi Feng walked out of the door, he was taken aback, because one of Yin Shang's men was holding a human head, and Mao Lin's head was on the list. Okay. Seeing this scene, Yi Feng was very happy. The efficiency of this Baofeng Chamber of Commerce is really good, disciple, I have avenged you. What surprised Yi Feng was that the Baofeng Chamber of Commerce actually wiped out the entire Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce. How cruel. Let's talk. What kind of remuneration you want? As long as I can do it, I can satisfy you. Yi Feng said generously. Yin Shang's efficiency is so good, the remuneration must not be less, even if he puts all the money in it, but it is worth it to be able to take revenge. Hearing this, Yin Shang was overjoyed, knowing that giving him a little something would give him a big chance. Sadly, he didn't dare to ask for it, so he hurriedly said politely, Mr. is too polite, this is just a gesture of effort, I don't want to be paid. Hands on. No wonder. Yi Feng could see that there was a conflict between the two chambers of commerce, and I am afraid that the Baofeng Chamber of Commerce wanted to destroy the Pingzhong Chamber of Commerce. I see. You really don't want to be paid? Yi Feng asked again. I really don't need it, Yin Shang said with a complicated expression, but he was already thinking about it in his heart. All right, Yi Feng nodded. After all, they are partners, and the Chamber of Commerce has also made a lot of money from him, so it makes sense not to. By the way, sir, how do the other members of the Baofeng Chamber of Commerce solve it? Yin Shang asked again. Other people, Yi Feng frowned. Others asked him why. But thinking about it, it's true. After all, it is about so many fates. Even as the head of the Chamber of Commerce, Yin Shang can't be sure to pay attention. It's reasonable to ask him for advice. That being the case, it's okay to talk. Touching his chin, Yi Feng said, I don't think it's necessary to kill him if it wasn't for the bad guys. It's a virtue to keep him alive. Of course, the one can't run away. Yin Shang immediately understood, and couldn't help but admire in his heart. A master is a master. This kind of lightheartedness and open-mindedness is really unmatched by ordinary people. He quickly said convincingly, Mr. Righteousness. It's nothing. Yi Feng smiled. Sir, let's go to other things first. Yin Shang said respectfully. Okay, take a slow walk and don't send me off. I will come and sit often when I have time in the future. Yi Feng nodded with a smile and said politely. Hearing this, Yin Shang was agitated, showing a deep excitement. Sure, although Mr. didn't give the reward, but this sentence is more important than any reward. Because this shows that this gentleman has identified with him, and in the long run, it is better than any other treasure. At the same time, Lu Qingshan had already taken the 18 guardians and felt the bombing of the heavenly gang. But as soon as he got here, his face sank. The 36 heavenly gangs and the 72 earthly demons of his Green Mountain Gate, together with the elders and Zhu Yun, were all locked in one great formation. What's going on? Old ancestor Qingshan said. Uncle, let's go, this bombing gang is not as simple as it seems. Zhu Yunzheng led the crowd, resisting the pressure brought by the great formation, and at the same time sent a voice to the ancestors of Qingshan. The ancestor of Qingshan sank, and just when he didn't know what to do, a strong sense of crisis hit. Then, he saw a white-robed figure appearing in the sky above the great formation. He stood with his hands behind his back, staring at old ancestor Qingshan with a pair of indifferent eyes. Hiss! Old ancestor Qingshan's expression changed drastically. This is the martial emperor. The bombing gang is actually hidden so deep, and there are powerful emperors. Finally, the white-robed man cast his gaze over and asked indifferently, Little Qingshanman, how dare you attack my heaven-breaking gang, how bold. Old ancestor Qingshan's face was gloomy, but he did not lose his sense of proportion. He raised his head and said, I don't know who your excellency is. Yi Bei. The white-robed man made an indifferent voice. Yi Bei. The ancestor of Qingshan was suddenly shocked. He remembered a legend in Nansha. 10 years ago, a genius master was born, and he reached the realm of King Wu at the age of 20. Many people speculated that he died in a secret realm. But he didn't want to. He joined the Zhuangtian gang, and in 10 years he became a martial emperor from Wuling. Such talent. Just horrible. I didn't expect to meet you here. Old ancestor Qingshan said in a deep voice. But you know that there are 3 elders of your Zodian gang who are doing things outside and offending people who shouldn't be offended. So what? Yi Bei said indifferently. You. Old ancestor Qingshan's face was ashen. So, you are the one who instigated the 3 of them to offend seniors. I don't know about them. Yi Bei said indifferently. Okay, since your sect doesn't know about it, it will naturally not provoke our sect war. Qingshan ancestor said in a deep voice. But I need your excellency to hand over those 3 people, and I need to go back and deal with that senior. Quote. Hearing this, Yi Bei raised his eyes. You smashed the body of the 3 elders of my sect, and now you still come to ask for someone, you are so loud. Yi Bei said coldly. You are thinking now, isn't it your Qingshanman how to get out? Quote. Old ancestor Qingshan looked aggrieved and ugly, but still said stubbornly, Your Excellency, this matter is not because of my Qingshan gate, but about another senior. I hope you can seriously consider it. No need to think about it, it's impossible for me to hand over people. Yi Bei said indifferently. Even if there is a senior who really wants someone, let him come over by himself. You, old ancestor Qingshan said angrily. Okay, I hope that when you say something like this, you will measure the consequences clearly. Are you threatening me? Yi Bei's face sank, and the palm of his hand suddenly came out. In the next instant, a thick palm print became bigger and bigger in the sky, pressing down like a heavenly might. Under this pressure, the 18 guardians beside Qingshan Patriarch could not stand and fell to the ground, and Zhu Yun in the big formation also showed a deep worry. The martial emperor is really powerful. Old ancestor Qingshan had a solemn look on his face, and he didn't dare to be careless in the face of such strong men. He immediately took out the kitchen knife in his hand, and slashed at the big palm that was attacking from the sky. Laugh. Under this knife, the sky glowed with dazzling light, and then the terrifying palm print was torn apart and turned into nothingness in midair. What? Seeing this, Yi Bei, whose face was always flat, finally showed an incredible color. It's not easy for a little martial king to break my palm easily. Yi Bei said with a cold look on his face. Give me that knife, and I can save your life. HMPH, impossible. Old ancestor Qingshan showed a firm look on his face. Yi Feng gave him this knife, how could he hand it over? Don't pay, then I'll just grab it. Yi Bei's voice just fell, and the next moment, he was in front of the ancestors of Qingshan, and then he slapped him. With this palm, a gust of wind was set off, and the air was nearly distorted. Old ancestor Qingshan's expression changed drastically, and he subconsciously chopped off the kitchen knife in his hand. A palm slashed on the kitchen knife. Yi Bei's complexion changed greatly, the whole person flew out, and when he looked at his palm, it had become shapeless and there was severe pain. I really didn't expect that a little martial king would actually hurt me. Yi Bei narrowed his eyes. But this kind of peerless divine sword is not something you can use. Only I, Yi Bei, deserve to have it. As he spoke, he burst out with full speed, and his ghostly body surrounded the ancestor of Qingshan, launching one after another fierce attack. Under such a strong attack, the space was nearly distorted, leaving ravines on the ground and dust rising into the sky. At the beginning, the ancestors of Qingshan could still rely on the divine sword to reluctantly resist, but Emperor Wu was a big realm higher than King Wu, and gradually he was unable to do what he wanted. Boom, bang 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 bang. After a series of sonic booms, when the last sonic boom was about to fall, old ancestor Qingshan flew upside down, and just as he was about to get up, a foot directly guessed on his chest. The knife is mine, Yi Bei said condescendingly, snatching the knife from Qingshan Patriarch. This is something that senior gave me. You dare to snatch it privately. If it arouses senior's anger, your Zhuangtian gang will cease to exist. Old ancestor Qingshan shouted angrily. Is it? One bite, one senior, I want to see if there really is such a person. Yi Bibu said with crumbs, his palm suddenly opened and fell on the top of Qingshan ancestor's head. Soul search. Old ancestor Qingshan's expression changed drastically and he struggled desperately, but he was powerless and only felt his memories pouring out. After a long time, Yi Bei raised the corner of his mouth. There is indeed such a person, but it doesn't seem like it. However, since he can give you such a divine weapon, there must be other good things. If so, then I will go to him again, just to lay a solid foundation for the rise of my Zhuangtian gang. As he said that, he landed on the body of Qingshan Old Ancestor, and Qingshan Old Ancestor's body flew out and landed in the big formation. You fools, just fend for themselves here. As he spoke, the corners of his mouth raised, his eyes looked in the direction of Pingzhong City, his body swept away, and he flew out. The speed of Emperor Wu was so terrifying. Soon, Yi Bei came to Pingzhong City and rushed to the martial arts hall according to the route in the memory of Qingshan Patriarch. Then he swept away and came to the door of the small martial arts hall. At the same time, the skull, which was pressed under the manhole cover, opened its mouth. Abba Abba. As soon as the voice fell, the martial arts hall underwent invisible changes, but no one could clearly see what had happened. After the change, the skull head smashed his mouth and used the Tianling cover to grind the manhole cover, trying to wear it through, and then escaped. Humph, I'm really a peerless master, and what kind of martial arts are contained in the plaque? Yi Bei looked at the martial arts plaque with his eyes. Where is there any martial intent on this sign? It is obviously a common sign that cannot be used in ordinary. Thinking of this, he recklessly walked towards the front hall of the martial arts hall. When passing the steps, he paused in his footsteps, looked down at the threshold stone under his feet, and couldn't help raising the corner of his mouth. This person is really interesting, but that's all. It's the old waste Qingshan who is self-motivated and makes up for this person's brain. No matter how powerful, I think there is a high probability, but it's just a silver gun wax head that doesn't work. With a sneer, he stepped into the front hall. When he first entered, he was still a little wary. After all, the memory of the ancestor Qingshan conveyed that there are 18 pictures of divine soldiers in the front hall. How powerful. But now, there are paintings. But there is no aura, and there is no fluctuation. Except for the look, it is just a piece of waste paper. He has now determined that this so-called Peerless master is just Lu Qingshan's clumsy eyes, and he made up his mind with some random thoughts. Of course, this person still has some background. Just like the shocking stone when entering the door, it is also a royal treasure after all, plus the kitchen knife of Qingshan Patriarch. However, this is more in line with Yi Bei's meaning. Since you're going to pretend to be a ghost and create some kind of broken martial arts hall, then I'll do whatever you want and kick your hall back. Yi Bei sneered, swept past, and landed on the big drum in the middle of the front hall. Boom! The deafening voice spread throughout the martial arts hall. In the martial arts hall, Yi Feng was not there. Only Ao Qing, who was sleeping, was awakened by the sound of the drum, opened his eyes leisurely, and glanced towards the front hall. Looks like a king. Forget it, let's continue to sleep. Anyway, it's another one to die. Yawning, the dog lay on the ground board and closed his eyes again. Kakaka. Under the manhole cover, the skull continued to grind the manhole cover. It seemed that Yi Bei's arrival had sounded the sound of the drum, but it was completely unable to break the peace of the martial arts hall, and the dog ignored it. A drum sounded without the slightest movement, which made Yi Bei's face gloomy. He hit it with another fist. Boom! There was another sound that was heavier than before. At this time, Yi Feng came back from the outside with a basket of spinach, and shouted, "Come here, what are you knocking?" When Yi Feng walked into the front hall, Yi Bei's eyes suddenly came over. Looking up and down Yi Feng. Sure enough, I can't see through the slightest cultivation base. However, he was not surprised. After all, from the memory of the ancestors of Qingshan, he had already expected that he had probably learned some kind of strange exercise to pretend to be a ghost. I know, you are the owner of this shop. Yi Bei raised his eyes and said coldly and arrogantly, I have nothing else to do today, I'm here to play. Kick the hall. Yi Feng, who thought it was some kind of business, suddenly frowned when he heard the words, and his voice became cold. Do you know what is the nature of kicking the gym here? Of course I know. Yi Bei raised the corner of his mouth and said coldly and proudly, kicking the gym will be divided between life and death, and the loser's martial arts gym will also change hands. Yi Feng's eyes narrowed slightly. He was right, these are the rules of this world, and also the unwritten rules in this world's martial arts gym. Therefore, there are very few people in this world who play gymnastics. And he is also the first time I have met since this martial arts hall was opened. Let's go, I don't want to fight with you. Yi Feng looked at Yi Bei up and down, and said without interest, you are not my opponent. You don't have a small tone, aren't you? Being so despised, Yi Bei showed a strong sense of evil, and said coldly, I'll tell you the truth, I came here on a special trip, and I'm sure to kick your pavilion. Hearing this, Yi Feng shook his head. Since it is a martial arts hall, it must be mortal. When mortals fight, he is not afraid yet. Anyway, his mother's skills are equal to God's. Do you really think that he is easy to bully? Yes, since you are going to fight, please accompany you. After all, Yi Feng held the spinach basket with one hand and tickled Yi Bei with the other. Okay, I don't even put down the vegetable basket, it's pretty decent, just wait and don't cry. Seeing that he was so despised, Yi Bei gritted his teeth. Then the palm suddenly moved, and complicated handprints were printed out, and all the power in the meridians was mobilized. When he came out, when the last handprint fell, it contained all the dark blows of the martial emperor and suddenly slapped towards Yi Feng. This blow, he did not have any reservations. There was no temptation at all, just to hit Yi Feng with a single blow. Go to hell. Cold light flashed in Yi Bei's eyes, and the attack in his hand was getting closer. In his opinion, Emperor Wu's full-strength blow with inner strength is bound to slash the arrogant and arrogant Yifeng in front of him at the same time. Gorgeous. However, Yifeng just glanced at him and said disdainfully, "Right now, this young man in white robe looks mighty, but in his eyes, he seems to be full of loopholes, and he can't even beat his apprentice Zhang Qing." Snapped. When the attack was about to land on Yifeng's chest, Yifeng slightly turned to one side to avoid his attack, and at the same time slapped him lightly in the face. What? Yi Bei, who was originally full of coldness, was stunned by this slap, and the next moment, he was slapped to the ground by this heavy force. How is this possible? Even after landing, Yi Bei still had a look of disbelief on his face. He was so proud of his full-strength strike, so easily cracked. Even Rao was the strength of his martial emperor, and he couldn't see how to crack it. However, the burning pain in his face made him feel humiliated. Yi Bei, a genius from birth, stepped into Emperor Wu at the age of 30. It can be said that he is the youngest Emperor Wu in the entire Nansha. He has never been humiliated like this. "You," he said with scarlet eyes. While speaking, Emperor Wu's cultivation base flowed through the broad meridians, and along with his powerful momentum, it was about to explode in an instant. However, a spinach basket smashed him on the head, and then smashed him to the ground. The momentum of his body and the cultivation of Emperor Wu were smashed back by the spinach basket. PFF'd. Under the backflow of power, Yi Bei's meridians were in chaos, and a mouthful of blood suddenly spewed out of his mouth. "You can't even beat Uncle Wang, who sells cattle next door. Who gave you the guts to come play here with me?" Yifeng said condescendingly with a basket of spinach. You. This humiliating voice fell in Yi Bei's ears, making him feel humiliated. Trembling all over, he didn't even care to get up, and with the movement of his palm, a transparent orb was sacrificed by him. "Sky Soul Pearl, kill me." Yi Bei's eyes flashed with strong murderous intent, and he directly sacrificed the heavenly soul pearl and charged towards Yifeng. This is his absolute killer move. And this heavenly soul orb was a rare treasure, so he didn't believe it and couldn't kill Yifeng. However, Yifeng stepped down. Crack. Yi Bei, who was full of murderous intent, shook his head and stared at Yifeng's souls. Heavenly soul pearl. Treasures. Just crushed with one foot. Gah. Yi Bei felt a fishbone stuck in his throat. You want to kill someone with just such a broken bead? Do you have something wrong with your brain? Yifeng's words made Yi Bei's face even more ugly. The treasure of Zongpin is actually a broken pearl in him. Looking at Yifeng's indifferent and truly disdainful expression, Yi Bei suddenly understood something. It turned out that this person was not what he thought at all, but just as Lu Qingshan thought, he was a true peerless master. Geek. Thinking of this, Yi Bei's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. The intestines instantly turned blue. It turned out that he kicked an iron plate like this. He wanted to escape, but before he could get up, Yifeng's kick suddenly landed on his chest. Crack. This kick shattered Yi Bei's chest and ribs, and the severe pain made him unable to speak. However, Yifeng did not intend to let him go. This coercion, although he is a dish, can't let him go because of his dish. After all, he has come here to play in the gym, which is regarded as an enemy of life and death. Soft-hearted. Impossible. It is true that Yifeng did not dare to kill a chicken, but killing people was a different world after all, and he had also killed a few secretly. So Yifeng grabbed him, and in Yi Bei's terrified eyes, he directly broke his arm, and then threw it heavily on the ground. Yi Bei's heart was full of dead gray. Yifeng's attack, even if he used all his cultivation, would still hurt him, and he was already lying on the ground dying. "Senior, yes, it was my fault, please let me go," he said hoarsely. He begged for mercy with remorse. "Let go of you." Yifeng walked over coldly, and stepped on Yi Bei's body again. Seeing that he was almost relieved, Yifeng was about to think about how to deal with this guy without blood, when a falling voice came from the inner room. Sound. Disciple. When Yifeng heard the words, a look of anxiety appeared on his face. Glancing at Yi Bei, then looking at his clothes, after hesitating for a moment, he said in a deep voice, "Bang Tian, yes, I remember, I'll let you go for the time being, but in a few days, I came to find you in person." After all, Yifeng ignored Yi Bei and hurried into the house. After all, the monk can't run away from the temple. Since this fool has come to kick the temple, he must take some time to kick back. But right now, compared to Zhang Qing, this trash must be more important than Zhang Qing. Sure enough, when he walked into the back room, Zhang Qing had already woken up, but his consciousness was not very clear, and he rolled off the bed at the same time. Yi Feng picked him up in distress and put him back on the bed. Seeing Yi Feng leaving, Yi Bei's heart that was stuck in his throat seemed to have become something, and he ran away regardless of his injuries. But because of his serious injury, he just smashed to the ground, but after a while, he flew again, and he fled out of the city with ups and downs. When he returned to the Zhuangtian gang, even the dignified martial emperor was about to collapse. He hurriedly took 2 medicines and recovered a little from his injuries. He didn't care about adjusting his breath, so he hurried towards the direction of the Great Formation. Sect Master, you are really strong. At this moment, the 3 of them rushed in the direction of Yi Bei, and they were the 3 martial arts of the Pingjiang Chamber of Commerce. The 3 of them escaped from the hands of the ancestors of Qingshan because of the practice of secret techniques. After returning to the Zhuangtian gang, they were reborn. Although their faces still looked weak, the 3 of them were indeed resurrected. Looking at Lu Qingshan's embarrassed appearance, it's really relieved. Haha, that is, when they are tortured by the big formation and they are not human-like, and then bring them out, I will torture them severely. Yes, especially after hearing from Lu Qingshan that there is a boy named Yi Feng behind him. This matter started because of him. This revenge will definitely be avenged. If I have a chance, I will definitely be addicted to his flesh and blood. However, thanks to the sect master, the 3 of them sneered, and while wantonly revealing their hatred, they did not forget to praise Yi Bei beside him. Come on, arrest the 3 of them for me. However, Yi Bei suddenly burst into flames and burst out in rage. Sect Master, you, why are you doing this? The faces of the 3 martial spirits changed drastically, and they looked at Yi Bei with disbelief, but they were just reborn, their strength did not recover at all, and they were immediately captured. What's the matter? Hearing this, Yi Bei became more angry, staring at the 3 with gloomy eyes, and a deep voice came out. If it wasn't for the 3 of them who caused this, how could he go to the small martial arts hall to be humiliated and almost lose his life? Of course, what terrified Yi Bei the most was Yi Feng's last sentence. Before long, he will come to the door. Once this happens, the Zhuangtian gang will cease to exist. The more he thought about it, the more angry he became. With a wave of Yi Bei's palm, he directly tore the palms of the 3 of them, allowing the 3 to let out shrill screams, and said solemnly, detain the 3 of them temporarily, and take them under my command later. Come over. After all, Yi Bei hurried to the big formation. Seeing Yi Bei's appearance, Lu Qingshan stared at him with hatred on his face, showing a look of hatred. Searching his memory, this is a great shame for him. What is even more unbearable is that this person also insults Mr. in many ways, whether it is acceptable or unbearable. But he also knew that he was just a prisoner right now, and revenge was hopeless, so he coldly shouted, Yi Bei, kill if you want, no need to torture us like this. However, Yi Bei changed his normal behavior. That indifferent face, under the incredible gaze of everyone, suddenly showed a flattering smile. Oh, Brother Qingshan, what are you talking about? All this is a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Ha ha ha, here comes, quickly remove the big formation and let the brothers from Qingshanmen come out. With such a scene, old ancestor Qingshan and the others were immediately stunned. Yi Bei, what do you mean? Old ancestor Qingshan was stunned by Yi Bei's actions, and said with a livid face. Cough, Brother Qingshan, what are you talking about? With a thick smile on Yi Bei's face, he put his arms around the shoulders of Qingshan's ancestor, and said with a smile, didn't I say everything just now? It was a misunderstanding, it was my negligence to lock my brother in this great formation, I apologize, I apologize. In this way, Yi Bei politely invited the Qingshan ancestor out of the big formation. Come on, brothers of the Zodian gang, show me the good wine and meat of the Zodian gang and entertain the brothers of Qingshanmen. Old ancestor Qingshan was still full of doubts about the abnormal Yi Bei. Just when he thought that Yi Bei would cheat, he found out inconceivably that Yi Bei exploded the Tianbang mountain gate and invited the entire Qingshan gate in. This move shocked the ancestors of Qingshan. This level of opening of the mountain gate, even if Yi Bei's strength is strong, but he is undoubtedly sticking the belly of the bombing gang to the tip of the Qingshan gate. Uncle, what the hell is Yi Bei doing? Zhu Yun approached the ancestor of Qingshan, and asked with a vigilant expression, could it be that he wants to harm us? Old ancestor Qingshan frowned, shook his head and said, although I don't know what he's doing, we've already been banned in the Great Array, and he doesn't need to do anything more. Zhu Yun also nodded. They are already the turtles in the urn, and it is really unnecessary to do this to harm them. That, Zhu Yun looked at the ancestor of Qingshan. This Yi Bei is a martial emperor after all, and the lives of so many of our disciples are in his hands. Let's go in first and take a step by step. After all, Qingshan Patriarch and a group of high-level leaders were also invited into the Zhuangtian Gang. Afterwards, in the expansive martial arts field of the Zhuangtian Gang, Yi Bei ordered a banquet of 100,000 tables to entertain the disciples of Qingshanmen. In the first one, headed by Yi Bei Qingshan Patriarch, the two high-level gates are all seated. Looking at the delicacies of the mountains and seas on this table, Rao is in the state of mind of the ancestors of Qingshan, and he can't help but be stunned. There are many things he has never seen before. This table is worth the price. Haha, brother Qingshan, this is the first time you come to my Zodian gang, you must eat and drink well. Yi Bei said with a smile on his face. At the same time as the voice fell, there was another wave of the palm. Come here, bring my big baby up and present it to brother Qingshan. Then, a maid with a good figure brought a jade tray, and on the jade tray, there was a delicate red box. This box, old ancestor Qingshan glanced at it and was surprised, because the cost of this box alone is high, and it seems to be made of a rare red fragrant wood. Brother, this is a good thing for me. Yi Bei picked up the red box and introduced at the same time, there is a smoky sandalwood made of wagon, zilingye and many other precious materials by my alchemist from the Exploding Heaven Gang. It is called Wazidan, also called Wazi for short. Brother, it's not my fault. This Wazi mass produces 20 pieces a year, and I will keep you fluffy and immortal, and you will endure more than 10 days of ascetic cultivation. Usually I don't want to take it out. Today, my brother is here. Now, I'm willing to take it out. As he said that, he pulled out a Chinese flower from the mahogany box. Sure enough, as soon as Wazi came out, there was a strong fragrance, and it seemed that his cultivation had improved a bit. Come on. Let brother Qingshan put Wazi on it. Old ancestor Qingshan frowned and looked at Wazi in front of him, and couldn't help but want to take a sip, but Yi Bei acted abnormally, and there must be a demon. He still held back his confusion and asked in a deep voice, Yi Bei, say what you have to say. Brother, what do you think you are saying? Yi Bei pretended to be stern and said angrily, is there any purpose for me as a brother to invite you to dinner? Old ancestor Qingshan still had a straight face. Okay. Brother, let me tell the truth. I was wrong before, Yi Bei, and I impulsively imprisoned brother and others in the big formation without finding out the facts. Having said this, Yi Bei revealed a touch of with a look of anger. He said in a deep voice, I only found out later that those three fools actually went out to do those bad deeds without telling me. Alas, I'm ashamed to say. Seeing Yi Bei's righteous remarks, the ancestors of Qingshan looked surprised. Come on, bring those three fools to me. Yi Bei waved. Soon, the three martial spirits were brought up with bitter expressions on their faces, and when they saw Yi Bei, they shouted, Help master, what do you mean? You didn't mean to keep us safe, but also said are you going to avenge us? HMPH, three fools, and they're still arrogant. Saying that, Yi Bei waved his palm and three heads fell to the ground, and the three of them died without understanding what was going on. Cough, brother, these three heads are handed over to you. Yi Bei said righteously. Yi Bei's series of methods made Qingshan's ancestor feel satisfied, but also felt a little ashamed. Brother, this Wazi, can you take a bite? After disposing of the three, Yi Bei held Wazi in both hands and said with a smile. It is good. Old ancestor Qingshan nodded and agreed readily. After all, Yi Bei was so magnanimous, he couldn't say it any more and took over Wazi. Seeing this, Yi Bei hurriedly ordered it. A mouthful of Wazi's chin penetrated into the heart and lungs, and exhaled with a thick puff of smoke. Sure enough, the vitality in the body was mobilized, and the cultivation base was a little more pure. It's really good stuff. Old ancestor Qingshan couldn't help but admire. Haha, since my brother likes it, this whole box will be yours, brother. Yi Bei said in a big voice. What's so funny? Old ancestor Qingshan said embarrassedly, but at the same time as he spoke, he dishonestly took the red box into his arms. Such a good thing, this box can save him a year of hard work. Then, it's time for a drink. This wine was specially brewed for Wushou. In less than an hour, the ancestors of Qingshan and the others started drinking and walking around, and while they were grinding small steps, their faces were rosy. Come on, send my brother to rest. Yi Bei hurriedly sent someone to give instructions. Soon, a few people walked towards the room, supporting old ancestor Qingshan and others. Yi Beiyu raised the corners of his mouth melodiously when he saw the backs of the ancestors of Qingshan and the others leaving. Yi Bei was able to become a martial emperor at the age of 30, and he was also the leader of the Zhuangtian gang, but he did not rely solely on talent. Relying on this picture, I understand the change of mind. Those who know the times are Junji. This is what he firmly believes. Help master, this is the information of Lu Qingshan, Zhu Yun, and many elders of Qingshan sect. Their temperaments, hobbies, and personalities are all recorded. At this time, an elder swept up to Yi Bei and took out a document. Yi Bei looked at the information and raised the corner of his mouth. Very good, I don't need to teach you what to do next, right? I know. The elder nodded, but hesitated before leaving. But the gang leader is just a small Qingshan gate. Is it necessary for us to treat it so solemnly? Hearing this, Yi Bei's face sank. After taking a deep breath, he said solemnly, it's very necessary. Because, he is our gang, life-saving straw. Old ancestor Qingshan has returned to his room. He was slightly drunk, and the more he thought about it, the more wrong he was. Even if Yi Bei knew what was right and what was wrong, the best he could do was to hand over the 3 martial spirits to him, and at the same time release his Qingshanmen from the formation. There is absolutely no need to engage in such a big battle to make amends, and even take out such good things as Wazi. After all, Yi Bei is also a strong martial emperor, so there is absolutely no need to act like a martial emperor like him. At this moment, Yi Bei's people sent back the Peerless divine saber, and carefully held the divine saber in his hand, which made Patriarch Qingshan even more wrong. Wu Shu's journey has always been intriguing. Especially in the face of treasures, no one can guarantee that he is a good person, and Yi Bei can return this kind of treasure, which is too abnormal. Could it be that he has already met the senior? Suddenly, the ancestor of Qingshan suddenly reacted. At that time, after Yi Bei searched his soul, he could remember clearly the scene where he rushed to Pingzhong City. When Yi Bei was drinking just now, although Yi Bei concealed it well, old ancestor Qingshan still caught Yi Bei's injury, and it was very serious. As soon as these things are connected, one can guess that Yi Bei must have found his husband, and then he was beaten half dead and ran back. When he came back, he was uncharacteristically at his Qingshan gate, and he was a brother of Qingshan. It was obvious that Yi Bei wanted to borrow him. Lu Qingshan saves his life. Thinking of this, the ancestor of Qingshan suddenly slapped his thigh, and the drunkenness on his body suddenly sobered up. It's sloppy. He looked remorseful. What is he, Lu Qingshan, in front of his husband? If he really wants to kill someone, what role can Lu Qingshan play in it? If you don't get it right, you will get killed because of Yi Bei. Yi Bei, such a strong scheming. Qingshan ancestor scolded hatefully, and began to think about how to return Wazi to Yi Bei, and at the same time lead the Qingshanmen disciples to leave here as soon as possible. Because he knew very well in his heart that this pirate ship was not allowed. Of course, just as he made up his mind, the door was suddenly pushed open. Old ancestor Qingshan frowned and raised his head to look, his eyes widened immediately. I saw that there were 2 fair-skinned girls walking into the door. They were not very old, and they looked petite and had some baby fat. And their service is the most eye-catching. One of them is wearing a small white skirt with a little fox's tail tucked behind him, and the other is wearing a black tights with a pair of cat ears on his tied hair. Ancestor, we were sent by the gang master to serve you. The 2 women said in unison. While speaking, the girl in white pouted towards Qingshan Patriarch. In addition, the black-clothed girl climbed up on the ground, showing the cat's charming gesture to the fullest. Puff. In such a scene, the blood of the ancestor Qingshan was surging in his body, and Rao Yiwu's realm was almost unable to be suppressed, and he felt that his nosebleed was about to spurt out. Yi Bei, why do you know that I like this? Old ancestor Qingshan's eyes widened, but he understood in an instant that this was a sugar-coated cannonball from Yi Bei. Hold on, hold on. My ancestors haven't seen any strong winds and waves in the past few years, so be sure to hold on. Glancing at the two women reluctantly, old ancestor Qingshan closed his eyes tightly, crossed his knees on the ground, and muttered the training formula in his mouth. Old ancestor, what's wrong with you? Why are you ignoring our sisters? Yes, come and play with our sisters. In the ears, there was the sound of the two women hooking people, and the two pairs of beautiful jade hands slowly slid down Qingshan old ancestor's ears, making Qingshan old ancestor goosebumps straight up, and his forehead was even more cold sweat. Shish! The two women blew in the ears of the old ancestor Qingshan, and the fingers drew a circle on the chest of the old ancestor Qingshan. This time, the ancestors of Qingshan almost went into trouble. Yi Bei, son of a fool, I call your grandmother, you are too despicable. Old ancestor Qingshan scolded and slammed his body straight up, smashing a hole in the house, turning it into a stream of light, and plunged into a pool not far from the Zhuangtian gang. Chapter 101. How's it going? Yi Bei stood with his hands behind his back after bombing the Tian gang. Reporting to the sect master, Lu Qingshan is not going well here. Behind him, an elder frowned and said, Yi Bei narrowed his pupils and said in a deep voice, if I guessed correctly, Lu Qingshan should have seen through my purpose, and he even returned this box of wazi. Then what to do with the sect master? The elder frowned and said, and the person you mentioned is really so terrifying. Fear. Yi Bei smiled bitterly, thinking that he had returned to the day. His face twitched, and then he said solemnly, the word horror is not enough to describe him. Hey, I think I, Yi Bei, have been cautious all my life, but I never imagined that I would have committed such a disaster. I don't regret the beginning. Then, what is his strength? The elder took a deep breath and asked nervously. At least martial emperor, even. It's a fairy. The elder groaned in his heart, and he recovered quickly and respectfully said, help master, I understand your hard conscience, but the old ancestor of Qingshan did not enter the oil and salt, what should I do? Continue to tell Xiao Zuo and Xiao Yu to disdain all costs and use seduction techniques to attack Qingshan. Yi Bei solemnly instructed. But Qingshan is King Wu after all. Although he is really good at this, I'm afraid he is not optimistic. The elder said solemnly. Don't worry, even if we can't attack Qingshan, aren't there other people in Qingshan sect? Yi Bei raised the corner of his mouth and said, for example, those elders and the sect master Zhu Yun. What the gang leader said is. The elder nodded and said, it's just that their Zhu Yun seems to have a slightly heavy taste. It's true. Having said this, Yi Bei couldn't help but nod his head in agreement. However, no matter how serious it is, you still need to satisfy him. It seems that I have to send my sister to go out in person. Understand, helper. The elder swept down and disappeared. Blink of an eye. 2 days passed. Yi Bei was walking on thin ice in his heart, and he was worried about when he would come to the door. Yi Bei. At this time, the ancestors of Qingshan flew by cursing and scolding all the way. These days, he was tortured to death. The two girls from the sky-breaking gang were like maggots on the tarsal bones, completely clinging to him, and they couldn't get rid of them even if they scolded them. You talk about doing it, after all, there are so many people in Qingshanman's own family here. It seems that the status of the two women is not low in the bombing gang. If you really do it, it must be a different situation. So, at this moment, he couldn't bear it any longer, and he planned to make it clear to Yi Bei. Yi Bei, don't hide, I know you're hiding on the back mountain, get out of here. Under the extreme anger, the ancestor of Qingshan didn't care whether Yi Bei was a strong emperor of the martial emperor, and he directly scolded. Cough, brother, what's the matter with you? Yi Bei said with an embarrassed look on his face. Okay, Yi Bei, you still ask me what's going on. I don't know what kind of wishful thinking you think you are playing. Qingshan Patriarch said angrily. I ask you, did you offend the seniors and want to put me on the line? Get on the pirate ship. Brother, I didn't expect to be seen by you. Yi Bei touched his nose and said with a smile, but don't say it so badly, why don't you pull it on the pirate ship? I just said it. I want you to help me with a few words of kindness in front of that senior. HMPH. What kind of good words are not good words? I won't offend that senior for you. Old ancestor Qingshan blushed and said angrily, I'll leave the words with you here, you can kill or cut them, but it's impossible for me to submit to you, and it's impossible for me, Qingshanmen, to join forces with Yu Zhuangtian gang. Brother, Yi Bei touched his nose and said meaningfully, this is also up to you. After all, if you don't give in, there will always be someone in your Qingshanmen who wants to give in. What do you mean? Old ancestor Qingshan stared. Brother-in-law, come out. Yi Bei shouted leisurely. Brother-in-law, what brother-in-law? Old ancestor Qingshan stared, and then, under his incredible gaze, Zhu Yun walked out embarrassedly with his head lowered, and beside him, there was a woman 8 feet tall and weighing more than 300. Xiaonao leaned against Zhu Yun's shoulder. You, what's going on? Old ancestor Qingshan asked hurriedly with his eyes wide open. Zhu Yun lowered his head and said apologetically, Master, uncle, I'm sorry, I. Brother-in-law is embarrassed to say it, let me help him. Yi Bei said with a smile, sometimes fate can't stop it. Brother Zhu Yun met my sister by chance during these few days in my sect. The spark of love was soon wiped out, so now our Qingshanmen and Zodian gang are in-laws. What? Hearing this, the ancestor of Qingshan almost vomited out a mouthful of old blood, and pointed at Zhu Yun angrily and shouted, You are the sect master of my Qingshanmen, you are so useless, you are such a. Quote. Saying that, the ancestor of Qingshan accidentally glanced at Sister Yi Bei, and immediately covered his eyes, unable to speak any more. Simply unsightly, spicy eyes. Yi Bei, you are despicable. Old ancestor Qingshan cursed loudly. This, brother, you can't blame me. Yi Bei hurriedly raised his palm and said solemnly, I really have the conscience of heaven and earth. They are all together because of love. Uncle, we are indeed because of love. You shut up. Old ancestor Qingshan shouted angrily. Under the extreme anger, the blue veins on his forehead were violent. Zhu Yun lowered his head and dared not speak. Seeing this, Yi Bei hurriedly said, Oh, brother, although this is quite sudden, it's better to demolish a temple than a marriage. It's also a good thing for us to become in-laws. That's right, uncle, I also think so. Although there was a little friction before, but the sincerity of the Zodian gang's apology has been seen by the whole Qingshanmen. It's better to have a kiss and a kiss. Zhu Yun also, he muttered to the side. Not only me, but many disciples and elders of our Qingshan sect have also found their marriage. What do you know? Old ancestor Qingshan shouted loudly, staring at Yi Bei with a gloomy gaze. Feelings, his entire Qingshan gate fell under Yi Bei's sugar-coated cannonballs, and he was left alone to support him. This Yi Bei is really a good trick. But at this moment, although he is the ancestor, but there is no way, Zhu Yun, he can beat the Mandarin duck, but what about the others? Now the whole Qingshan sect people are inclined towards the exploding heaven gang. If his ancestor destroys it, I am afraid not only will not convince the public, but also get a bad reputation. Therefore, he can only plant his head and sigh with a black face. This pirate ship, he is on board. Cough, brother, it's already like this, so don't be sulking. Since we can't stop things, we might as well accept them, don't you think? Yi Bei walked over with a smile, and asked the ancestors of Qingshan. Raising his brows and waving his palms at the same time, Xiaozuo Xiaoyu came over again and rubbed against Qingshan Patriarch. Have to. Old ancestor Qingshan can only recognize it. Since he couldn't change it, he really could only accept it passively. Under the teasing of the two women, old ancestor Qingshan said with a dark face, I will talk about the future. I need to retreat for a day. When he got up, he said to the two women, You two, help me protect the Dharma. Say it. He took the two daughters and fled away. Martial arts. Yi Feng frowned while decocting medicine for Zhang Qing. Although Zhang Qing was awake last time, he fell into a coma again not long after. It seems that I really have to go up the mountain to get some medicine. Yi Feng poured out the medicine and sighed. It wasn't that he never thought about sending Zhang Qing to the hospital for treatment, but he still trusted himself more. After all, he was trained by the system in this regard. Thinking that the situation was urgent, Yi Feng did not dare to delay, so he ordered a car to take Zhang Qing to the Baofeng Chamber of Commerce and then entrusted it to them. Then he returned to the martial arts hall, carrying a small bamboo basket on his back, ready to go to Mufu Mountain again. But before leaving, he looked at the acoustic guitar that was already covered with spider webs in the corner, remembered the scarcity of this medicine, and he didn't know how long it would take to return, so he brought the acoustic guitar with him. The sound is normal. It was made by Yifeng when he was bored in the store. In the past, I would sit at the gate and ride in the evening when there were many girls, talking about a few special songs, and also gained a few little fans. Although it was a little ugly, it was still a fan. Later, in order to make a living, Yifeng gradually put aside such a hobby. And this time up the mountain, the time is long, especially at night, I can only bring this stuff to pass the time. The days on the road are always boring, but after 2 days, Yifeng has also arrived at the foot of the Mufu mountain. Of course, Yifeng is not searching aimlessly. He has a lot of knowledge about these medicinal materials, and he also understands which medicinal materials are likely to appear in which places. Tianshinden, I'm afraid this is only in the Grand Canyon, but there is enough sunshine and good air. With the map he bought from the city in his hand, Yifeng pinpointed one of the directions and rushed there. Old Wu, how are you? In the light rain, Chu Guangxi and Sun Zhu both sounded worried. Since they were trapped here by Li Moqi, the three of them have been in a state of embarrassment, and due to the large formation, the three of them could only support themselves by stepping on their feet. The two of them could still rely on their cultivation for a period of time, but Wu Yonghong's cultivation was abolished, and he was no different from a mortal. He had already been lying on the ground dying. Seeing that Wu Yonghong's consciousness was becoming more and more blurred, Chu Guangxi and Sun Zhu looked at each other, and both of them transmitted the few powers in their bodies. You guys, what are you doing? Feeling the power pouring into his body, Wu Yonghong's consciousness recovered a lot, but he shouted anxiously, this great formation not only blocks the cultivation base, but also closes the channel for you to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. You don't have much power, so why bother? Do you want to fight for me, a wretch? Hearing this, Chu Guangxi and Sun Zhu both laughed bitterly, but the transmission of power did not stop. The last time I was in the secret realm of Guandu, if it wasn't for your old Wu, I, Chu Guangxi, would have long since disappeared. Chu Guangxi said, why are our brothers talking about these things? Although we won't be able to live for a few days, but not before. At the last minute, we won't leave you, old Wu, alone. Old Chu is right, our brothers don't need to be so polite. Sun Zhu said the same. When I was fighting against the enemy and fighting alone, if you, old Wu, hadn't arrived in time, I would have been gone. You. Rao was in Wu Yonghong's state of mind, and when he arrived at this verge of danger, he couldn't help but tear up his eyes and looked at the two old friends gratefully. Ah, it's not a pity for us to die, it's just that I'm worried, sir. Sun Zhu said worriedly after transmitting the power to Wu Yonghong. Hearing the words, Wu Yonghong's face turned a lot darker again, and even more embarrassed. It's me who implicated the predecessors. If I had seen through Li Moqi earlier, I wouldn't have caused such trouble to Mr. Blame me. Don't worry, Mr. Jiren has his own good looks. Besides, he is so powerful, so he can't be harmed by a Li Moqi. Chu Guangxi comforted him from the side. I hope so. Everyone sighed, but their hearts were still deeply worried. Because if it were normal, he would naturally not be afraid that Li Moqi could hurt Yifeng, but with such a terrifying formation as the Tianyan Great Formation, the situation is still not optimistic. Rain. Don't know when it stopped. Suddenly, Sun Zhu seemed to see something, and suddenly shouted in surprise. Look. Hearing this, the other two also looked at him. I found that halfway up the mountain in the distance, a figure slowly walked towards this side. When they recognized the figure, the three almost jumped up excitedly. Gentlemen, ha ha ha, it's actually Mr. When Wu Yonghong saw this scene, his whole body trembled, and he laughed like crazy. I'll just say it. And Chu Guangxi wasn't much better, slapped his thigh and said excitedly, Sir is so powerful, how could Li Moqi be able to hurt him? I am afraid that it has been solved by the husband long ago, and knowing our situation, he came to rescue especially. For a time, the three happy 10,000-year-old old men got together and burst into tears. The road is very difficult to walk, and the ground is full of swamps, so Yifeng does not walk fast. After walking slowly for a long time, I saw three figures in front of me. Hey, isn't that Brother Wu and the others? What a coincidence. Yifeng's face was full of surprise. He met acquaintances in this big mountain, so he had to say hello to these old brothers. So, Yi Feng walked straight towards the three of them. However, when the three saw the route Yi Feng was taking, their expressions quickly changed, and they hurriedly said loudly, "Be careful, sir, there is an array. Don't come right here, sir." While shouting, the three of them danced with each other, for fear that Yi Feng would not realize the seriousness. What? This distance is still quite far for Yi Feng, just hearing them shouting, but can't hear what they are shouting at all. I guess it's to say hello. But it's really enthusiastic. Thinking like this, Yi Feng walked towards them with a smile on his face. It's over. Seeing this, the faces of the three of them changed drastically. You must know that there is not only the formation arranged by Li Moqi, but also due to the terrain in the ancient battlefield, there is also a large natural formation and countless ancient formations. Although Mr. is powerful, but if you accidentally fall into it, you will also encounter big trouble. For a time, the three people's hearts were stuck in their throats. However, Mr. ignored their words, leaving them feeling powerless. However, what they didn't expect was that those formations seemed to be immune to Yi Feng, and Yi Feng walked over like this, but there was nothing at all. Such a scene. The three of them were stunned, and they couldn't turn their heads. It wasn't until Yi Feng walked less than half a jong in front of them that they looked at each other, took a deep breath, and showed shocking eyes. It turned out that they still underestimated Mr. The horror of Mr. has surpassed their cognition, and it can even be strong enough to ignore the ancient formation. Gee, I'll wait, I've seen Mr. The three respectfully greeted Yi Feng and were extremely excited. Not so polite. Yi Feng smiled, but he was used to it. In this life, he has been a man of conscience, and he has been respected by many people. Sir, we have been trapped here for a long time. The three said with tears, "Thank you, sir, for coming." Been stuck here for a long time. Yi Feng frowned and glanced at the feet of the three of them. The soil was smashed and there was indeed a big puddle. But this is not a swamp, so even a puddle can't get out of it. These three are so hypocritical. But remembering that these are three old men, it is understandable. That's it. If you come across it, I'll give you a hand. Bring it on. Saying that, Yi Feng stretched out his palm and said softly. Looking at Yi Feng's actions, the three of them looked at each other and said with doubts, "Sir, you may not care about this dangerous situation, but we are trapped in it, so are we going to come out like this? Isn't it too sloppy? Sir, do you have to untie the big formation anyway?" But Yi Feng frowned, a little displeased. "Do I have to carry you out of a broken puddle?" These three old men are really hypocritical to death. Seeing Yi Feng's dissatisfaction, the three of them immediately understood that their doubts aroused the dissatisfaction of their husband, and they dared not speak any more. They quickly grabbed Yi Feng's palm and prepared to be suspicious. However, what they didn't expect was that Wu Yonghong was pulled out smoothly without any obstruction or accident. Afterwards, the second and third were also without any accident or obstruction, as if the formation had failed. But obviously, they didn't see Yi Feng break the formation or make any other moves. Hiss. The eyes of the three were unbelievable, and their respect for Yi Feng was even more convincing. They found that they once again underestimated Yi Feng. Not only can they ignore the formation, but they can even be directly immune to them. What kind of cultivation do you have to be able to do this? Thank you, sir, for your help. The three thanked them respectfully. There's nothing to be thankful for, it's just a puddle. Yi Feng waved his hand and said indifferently. A puddle. The three of them smiled wryly. I am afraid that it is only a man like Mr. that can call this dangerous place a puddle. By the way, Mr. Wu, he is injured, look. At this moment, Chu Guangxi seemed to remember something and said to Yi Feng expectantly. Old Chu, don't talk about it, don't bother Mr. anymore. Wu Yonghong said quickly. Besides, my injury is simply powerless. What's the use of bothering Mr. Oh, Yi Feng was a little interested when he heard the words, and said, come and show me your injury. Sir, I am. Wu Yonghong really didn't want to trouble Yi Feng, and besides his dantian was abolished, it was difficult for gods to heal. It's okay to have a look. Yi Feng said softly. Okay. Wu Yonghong opened his mouth and lifted his clothes to reveal his lower abdomen. There is a blood hole, and the dantian in the body has long been ruptured. It's really serious. Yi Feng glanced at it. Hearing this, Wu Yonghong's face was sluggish, and sure enough, even Mr. But just as he thought so, Yi Feng heard another voice. Although it's a bit serious, it's not impossible. I'll get you some herbal medicine and apply it later. What? Yi Feng's words suddenly made Wu Yonghong, whose face was sluggish, widen his eyes and looked at Yi Feng expectantly. Sir, you mean, can my injury be healed? Wu Yonghong made a trembling voice, and he couldn't help shaking with excitement. Of course it can, although it's a little serious, but it's not to the point where it can't be cured. Don't worry, it's no big deal. Yi Feng said softly. Yi Feng's words shocked the three people present. They have never heard of a broken dantian that can be repaired. There is even a saying in Shanjiang continent that it is easy to bring back from the dead, but it is more difficult to repair the dantian than to ascend to the sky. However, in this person's mouth, is it no big deal? For a time, the three of them fell to the ground for the 5 bodies that Yi Feng admired, especially his detached and indifferent appearance, which made them feel awe from the bottom of their hearts. Saying that, Yi Feng took off the bamboo basket behind him and took out a few herbs. Then the herbs were kneaded together and stuck to Wu Yonghong's belly with a pop, covering his wound. Okay, cover yourself with your hands. After finishing it lightly, Yi Feng continued to carry the bamboo basket on his back. Is that useful? Wu Yonghong covered his stomach dully, with a slight suspicion in his heart. It's not that he doesn't believe in Yi Feng, but that the broken dantian can really be cured by these incomprehensible herbs. But the next moment, he suddenly widened his eyes and trembled violently. The herbal medicine exuded a warmth at this moment, and this warmth turned into a pure force, condensing towards his broken dantian. In less than a moment, his broken dantian has a tendency to be repaired. Looking at Wu Yonghong's appearance, Chu Guangxi and Sun Zug on the side also showed surprise. Being able to show Wu Yonghong this appearance clearly showed that the medicine worked. Really, it's being repaired? The two asked in unison. Wu Yonghong nodded solemnly. Hiss. The two looked at each other, took a breath, and cast a respectful look at Yi Feng. Such means, never before. Boom. At this time, the excited Wu Yonghong knelt directly on the ground with his legs, and said solemnly with a trembling voice, Wu Yonghong will never forget the kindness of Mr. It's just a little thing, it's not a big deal, why are you so polite? Looking at Wu Yonghong kneeling on the ground, Yi Feng shook his head. The old man was probably so excited because he was about to die. But Wu Yonghong was reluctant to get up. A martial cultivator whose dantian was abolished was even more uncomfortable than dying. In his opinion, Yi Feng's move was more important than saving his life. Sir, last time you gave me a rake at a low price, and this time you have given me such a great favor. I Wu Yonghong can't repay it. Please accept me as a servant. I am willing to go up to the mountain of swords and down to the sea of fire. Wu Yonghong's voice trembled, his head knock on the ground said. You are too polite. Yi Feng wanted to pull Wu Yonghong up, but just after he pulled up, he knelt down again, which made Yi Feng quite emotional. This otherworldly person, the gratitude is still very good. It's just a rake and a piece of herbal medicine, so I am so grateful to Dade. Looking at Wu Yonghong who couldn't afford to kneel down, Yi Feng sighed and said, well then, you can help me in the future. There is just a wasteland behind my martial arts hall, and I plan to reclaim it and plant something casually. Thank you, sir, I am willing to die for you, sir. Wu Yonghong was full of tears, and then got up excitedly. While Chu Guangxi was happy for Wu Yonghong, he was also full of jealousy. This Wu Yonghong can follow Mr. The benefits that can be obtained in the future are inexhaustible. Okay, I'm going to continue going into the mountains, you guys should go back to Pingzhong City first. After the courtesy, Yi Feng said softly, and continued to go deeper with the Xiaojulo on his back. Sir, why don't we go in with you? Wu Yonghong said quickly, we can still get you something on the way. Yeah. Chu Guangxi and the two also looked at Yi Feng with anticipation. But Yi Feng frowned. These 3 bad old men can't climb up from a broken puddle, and they still want to follow him into the mountain. Isn't this special mother trying to find guilt for him? In order to avoid their entanglement, Yi Feng said bluntly, forget it, you should go back, you are just a burden to follow me. Hearing this, Wu Yonghong's face flushed red. Although Wu Yonghong's cultivation base was temporarily abolished, Chu Guangxi and Sun Zug were real martial arts masters, but they were regarded as burdens in front of him. If someone else said this, the three of them would definitely pass by with a slap in the face, but in front of this man, they were embarrassed and embarrassed. Because in front of this person, their wuzong is really nothing, and it is indeed a burden. Yi Feng ignored them and left slowly with the bamboo basket on his back. Looking at the back of him leaving, the three of them were fascinated for a while. Out of the dust, out of the ordinary. It is as if the wind and rain in this world cannot enter his eyes. Yi Feng carried Xiaojulo on his back and went down the canyon. And Wu Yonghong and others listened to his instructions and rushed back to Pingzhong City. Tianshandan. After running around for a long time, Yi Feng finally found his target, and from a distance he could see it growing alone on a hairless cliff. Like a plum blossom blooming in winter, it is so different. Yi Feng put the bamboo basket on the ground, took out the small shovel that he carried with him and inserted it into his waist, clapped his palms and climbed towards the cliff, trying to pick the Tianshandan. Not far away, on an old tree covered with dead vines, a crow covered in black feathers was attached to it, and a large centipede was crawling beside the crow. In the eyes of the two animals, there is a humanized color flashing. What happened to this Tianshandan? Suddenly, the crow spit out human words. Chi, Lord Heu, this day's heart has matured, and it will depend on when Lord Monster Emperor will come to pick it. At the same time, the centipede also spit out human words. Well, Lord Monster Emperor has been in retreat for the past 2 days. After he leaves for 2 days, he will come and pick it himself. Crow said solemnly. This Tianshandan is very important to Lord Monster Emperor, and you can get it in the last 2 days. Keep it well, and don't make any mistakes. Yes, Lord Black Feather. Centipede said respectfully. Seeing this, the crow nodded in satisfaction, and at the same time looked at Tianshandan subconsciously. Gah, I don't know if I don't see it. When I was shocked, the crow's feathers almost fell off. Between their conversations, there was actually a human being who had already climbed up to Tianshandan's side. Quick, stop that human, the crow shouted. Hearing this, the centipede was also shocked. Then there was extreme anger, and the countless feet clinging to the tree trunks quickly rushed towards Tianshandan. And the crow is also unwilling to be left behind. After all, as a flying monster, his speed is much faster than that of a centipede. Immediately, he flapped his wings and flashed a cold light from his sharp mouth, and charged directly towards the human. It's really good stuff. Yi Feng observed Tianshandan in front of him and showed a satisfied smile. Just as he was about to pick it, he found a crow rushing directly towards him. Involuntarily, Yi Feng tilted his head slightly and avoided the crow. What? The crow's face is incredible. Obviously this human being is only a mortal, but so easily dodged his blow. Especially seeing that the palm of this human was on Shandan that day, the crow burst out with anger, spread its wings, and a huge demonic force condensed between the dual wielders. Cover away. Wait, is this crow having a brain problem? Yi Feng, who was flapping his wings, was distraught, and he waved his palm to drive away. What? It was Yi Feng's wave of his palm that caused the huge shock wave transformed by the demon power to be swept away directly, which made the crow show a strong disbelief. I encountered a tough stubble. The crow became dignified, but in front of the two of them, this human wanted to pick Tianshandan directly, which made them unable to bear it. As soon as the figure moved, a gust of wind was set off, and it turned into a sharp sword and charged towards Yi Feng. Where is the broken crow? Get out of my way. Yi Feng was so annoyed by this crow that he took out the small shovel from behind and threw a shovel over it. Snapped. The shovel had a 100% hit rate, slapped the crow directly on the cliff, popped out a feather, and then smashed it to the ground. The dead couldn't die any longer. Hiss. The centipede, which had just climbed halfway, saw this scene, and suddenly lost its spirits, and its claws were bent in fright, making a circle around a rock, moving countless feet and running. The dignified Lord Heu was actually shot to death by a shovel. How could his little centipede be an opponent? What kind of mortal is this human being? It's so terrifying. Moreover, I have to snatch Tianshandan, so I have to report to the Demon Emperor quickly. Soon, he got into the crevice of the rock and disappeared. He didn't know if he was walking too fast or what, and 2 of his dense legs were broken. After killing the crow, Yi Feng finally got his wish to get the Tianshandan. With the arrival of this Tianshandan, 1/3 of the mission of his trip has been completed. The next one, water spirit grass, has a place for water. Yi Feng opened the map and walked towards the next destination. In a dark water hole, a huge centipede crawled along the rock wall towards the water hole. And in the middle of the water hole, there is still an old man. Lord Monster Emperor, it's not easy to pull. The centipede shouted anxiously. Just now, a human came to snatch Tianshinden, and he shot Lord Heyu to death with a shovel, and I also paid too. It was at the cost of a broken foot that I ran back to report the message to Lord Demon Emperor. What? Hearing this, the lazily lying Pharaoh Ba suddenly stood up, and the calm water suddenly turned violent, with splashes of dozens of meters high. You said someone stole my Tianshinden. Who is it? Who is it? I don't know who it is. I only know that it is a human being. He is still in Tianshinden. The centipede said hurriedly. Go, take me to find him, I must kill this human. Lao Wangba exuded monstrous anger, quickly turned into a streamer, and disappeared, and the centipede hurriedly followed. It seems that the map shows that there is a water hole in it, and I don't know if there is any water spirit grass in it. Yi Feng came to the edge of a stream, and it seemed that there was a cave not far away from which he could walk into the water hole. Following the stream, Yi Feng went all the way up, finally found the entrance of the water hole, and walked in. In the water hole, there was a gloomy look, and when you stretched out your hand, you couldn't see the 5 fingers, it was pitch black, and you only felt that there were many small water droplets ticking down from the top of the rock wall, landing on Yi Feng's shoulders, bringing a chill. Yi Feng shivered and took out the flame bead from his arms. As soon as the flame beads came out, it immediately illuminated the entire water hole, and also brought a warm feeling to Yi Feng. What? As soon as he saw the inside of the cave, Yi Feng was surprised to see the trace of the water spirit grass. It's really good luck, but it's quite tall, it's estimated that it will take some effort. Yi Feng nodded, put down the bamboo basket behind him, and crawled towards the water spirit grass with a small shovel. People, you tell me, what about that human? At this time, Lao Wangba and the centipede also rushed to Tianshinden. Tianshinden had long since disappeared. Apart from the smashed Heyu corpse on the cliff, there was nothing else to be seen. Me, Yao. Lord Yalwang, when I left just now, he was still here. Centipede said anxiously. Humph, a little human stepped on my Bogu's head. Under the anger of old Wang Ba, accompanied by a burst of light, he directly transformed into an old man with a turtle shell on his back, but his appearance was hideous and his facial features were also crowded together. This appearance alone gave people a feeling of fear. Where are the 18 demon kings? With his loud shout, a monster wind burst into the air around King Bogu. Then, a man with a leopard head stepped out of the air. Following the leopard, the 18 demon kings, including the demon monkey, the demon pig, the demon wolf, and the demon eagle, all arrived and knelt down in front of Bo Ji Yu. Lord Demon Emperor, I don't know what you need to do to summon me. The 18 demon kings asked in unison. Bogu's face was gloomy, and he said solemnly, there is a human being in the mountains, not only plucked my Tianshinden, but also killed Heyu. I want you to find the trace of this human and catch him within half an hour. In front of me, I want to be addicted to his flesh and blood. Yes, Lord Demon Emperor. With an order, the 18 demon kings turned into a demon wind and escaped. Lord Demon Emperor, don't be angry, this Mufu mountain is our territory, and he can't run far. The centipede piled up this smile, and with the revealing of the demonic energy, it immediately turned into a human centipede head, but his features of many hands and feet were still there, and he said flatly, Sir Yalwang, you were waiting here, little follower. You hammer your shoulders. Saying that, the countless palms cooperated perfectly and helped Bogu knead. HMPH, that's what you're a waste. Otherwise, I'll take you to feed the Eagle King just because of the loss of your heart. Bogu snorted coldly. Yes. The centipede squeezed the sweat and worked harder. Half an hour passed quickly, and the 18 demon kings returned to Bo Ji Yu on time, but they all had solemn expressions on their faces, knelt on the ground and whispered, report to the demon king, and search the entire mountain, no trace of that human was found. What? Bo Ji Yu stood up suddenly, his vigorous momentum directly sent the centipede flying behind him, staring at the 18 demon kings with gloomy eyes, so that they did not dare to take a breath. Pass my order, enlarge the search range, you must find this human. Bogu said through gritted teeth. Yes, the 18 demon kings disappeared again. Lord Demon Emperor, what should we do then? The centipede climbed back and asked cautiously. This human dares to steal my Tianxin Dan, I will definitely let him die. Bogu said gloomily. But this emperor's breakthrough is imminent, and there can be no more accidents in the water spirit grass. Follow this emperor to go back to the cave and wait for this emperor. After absorbing the water spirit grass, come back to deal with this human in person. 2 streams of light were drawn out, and the 2 demons returned to the outside of the water cave mansion. The water spirit grass has matured and cannot be affected in any way. You and I will restrain the demonic energy and enter the palace with my illusion. Bogu solemnly ordered the centipede. When I absorb the water spirit grass, you will protect me from the side, and when I get out of the customs, we will go to find the human. If you can't find him, all the people in this mountain will be human beings. See one and kill one for me, and all of them will be made into human sticks for me. Yes, Lord Bogu, the centipede responded respectfully. With a flash of light, the 2 demons returned to their original bodies, turning into a turtle and a centipede and crawling towards the cave. Slow down, this emperor is still behind. While crawling and looking at the fast-climbing centipede in front, Bogu suddenly let out a dissatisfied voice. Yes, yes, Lord Demon Emperor. Seeing Bogu's sluggish movements, the centipede smacked its mouth and had to slowly crawl behind Bogu, but dared not speak. It really took me a lot of time to pick this water spirit grass. Yi Feng carefully put the freshly picked water spirit grass into the bamboo basket, wiped the sweat, and showed a satisfied look. At the same time, Bogu and Centipede finally climbed in and happened to see this scene. Who is it? Who dares to be so daring to come to my cave to steal my water spirit grass? Bogu's eyes widened suddenly, and he froze in place. You must know that this is the cave of his demon emperor, and ordinary little monsters and mobs are walking around, let alone entering his cave to steal things. Never thought that someone would dare to be so bold. Yao 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 Huang, he is the human who steals the heart. And the centipede was also stunned, rubbing his eyes with his front feet, and suddenly a panicked voice came out to the demon emperor. What? Bogu's eyes widened, and then a monstrous anger burst out from his body. He was looking for this human everywhere, but he didn't expect that this scoundrel would come directly to his lair, and he also pocketed his newly mature water spirit grass. Unforgivable, simply unforgivable. Die. The anger erupted into the sky, and the powerful demon power swept wildly in the body, and it was about to transform into an attack on Yi Feng. However, just as he was about to transform into shape, a surprised voice came. What a big fool. As the sound fell, one foot stepped on it and landed on Bogu's tortoise shell. This kick made Bogu, who was about to transform into shape, hold back abruptly, as if 100,000 mountains were pressing on top of his head. Even Bogu, who was as strong as the demon emperor, could not move even if he stepped on it. What power is this? Bogu, who was trampled under his feet, widened his eyes and was full of horror. But what is more intense in my heart is anger and humiliation. His dignified body of a demon emperor was actually stepped on by a human being. How could he bear it? Die, you must die. Bogu roared hysterically in his heart, and at the same time, the surging power of the demon emperor was running wildly in his body, struggling hard, trying to turn over and attack from under the sole of his foot. Okay, you old man, you are still very strong. Feeling the strength coming from under his feet, Yi Feng also became angry, put down the bamboo basket, grabbed the old man under his feet, raised it above his head, and fell heavily. The fall made Bogu dizzy, and his eyes flashed with gold stars. The hatred in his heart also suddenly turned into fear under this fall. He couldn't believe it, that the enormous power of his demon emperor could not be displayed at all in front of this human being. This is the first time he has seen such an evil and incredible thing. Could it be? He suddenly thought of something. Could it be that this person is a master among human beings who has reached martial saint or martial emperor? Otherwise, how could there be such a superb method? And he was so bold, completely ignoring the authority of his Bogu demon emperor, and went directly to his cave to pick the water spirit grass. Hiss. Thinking of this, he suddenly took a deep breath. If this is the case, then he can be compared to the demon saint or demon emperor in his demon world. Under such means, how could he Bogu have any chance? How to do? Bogu's heart became numb with panic. This was the biggest crisis he had encountered since he became the Demon Emperor. Just as he was thinking about what to do, Yifeng's eyes just caught a glimpse of the centipede beside him. There is actually such a big centipede. Yifeng frowned. The centipede is disgusting. It can be said that there is no intention, but the centipede was directly frightened. This human being is terrifying. He is truly experienced. He first slapped Heiyu with a shovel, and then stepped on the Demon Emperor under his feet. With this kind of strength, he has no intention of fighting this human. So the next moment, his belly turned over and he lay on the ground motionless. Pretend to be dead. Bogu's eyes widened when he saw this scene. Well, you Yifeng centipede, it's fine if this emperor is in danger if you don't come to escort him. To actually pretend to be dead in front of this emperor is just mad at me. But this is also for Bo. Guti wakes up. After hesitating for a moment, he simply gritted his teeth, rolled his eyelids, and slammed onto the ground, motionless. Although his dignified demon emperor had to pretend to be dead to save his life, it was a bit embarrassing, but in order to be able to escape the poisonous hands of this human being, there was no other way. Anyway, no one will see it. Yifeng picked the centipede with a shovel. How did such a big centipede die suddenly? Yifeng was full of wonder. This kind of scary thing, I wanted to make up a shovel, but it was too disgusting to think about it, so I ignored it. Afterwards, Yifeng approached the old man again. Hearing the footsteps of Yifeng walking in, Bo Jiyu felt uneasy for a while, but when he remembered the appearance of Yifeng's centipede pretending to be dead to escape the disaster, he relaxed a little bit. Is this old man dead too? Yifeng kicked with his foot, thinking that he must have been killed by a fall. Heard. Bogu breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he did not reveal his secrets, and he must be able to escape soon. But he breathed a sigh of relief, and Yifeng's excited voice came. Such a big old man is a big tonic. Bring it back and make a soup, just enough to give your disciple a good supplement. This sentence fell in Bogu's mind, and a blast of thunder sounded in an instant. He is a dignified and demon emperor, but he is actually going to be used to make soup. Bogu couldn't withstand this blow all of a sudden. His anger attacked his heart and the previous heavy fall, his eyes went black, and he fainted directly. Using the light of the flame beads, Yifeng grabbed a handful of water plants in the water next to them, tied them into a straw rope, and then tied them to the old man and held them in his hands. After weighing it, Yifeng nodded with satisfaction. I'm afraid this fool has several kilograms, and the disciple can't finish it all by himself. I'll call Old Man Wu another day, and Old Man Qingshan and the others will also make up for it. After all, Yifeng took out the map again. Cloud Road Flower. This medicine is not easy to find, you can only try your luck everywhere. After speaking, Yifeng carried the bamboo basket and walked out of the water hole with Wangba in one hand. And not long after Yifeng left, Yifeng's centipede rolled up and got up, his face full of lingering fears, and his eyes were full of deep fear. Thinking of the tragic state of the demon emperor, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He was hurriedly afraid of leaving the cave, perhaps because he was too anxious and broke 2 legs, but he still didn't dare to stay and climbed into the mountains. Come on, make a big deal. Everyone, come out, the Bogu demon emperor is about to be stewed into soup. While shouting in a hurry, he notified the nearby monsters. This major event instantly alerted the big and small demons in the entire mountain range, and the 18 demon kings who heard the news also rushed back and gathered in a dark canyon. Yifeng's centipede, what's going on? The Eagle King blinked sharply, stared at Yifeng's centipede and asked. 18 demon kings, you have to think of a way, that human being is simply too cruel. Yifeng's centipede said with a sad face. That human directly broke into the demon emperor's cave, not only pulled out the demon emperor's water spirit grass, but also grabbed the demon emperor and said he wanted to go back to stew soup, and I also fought him. 300 rounds, I paid the price of 2 legs, I knew I was powerless to save the demon emperor, so I had to run out to inform you guys. HMPH, shameless. Leopard King's mighty body stepped out, staring at Yifeng's centipede and said solemnly, even the demon emperor was captured by that human being, how can you be a little centipede with the strength to fight that human for 300 rounds? As soon as the Leopard King's doubts came out, the other demon kings looked at Yifeng's centipede suspiciously. Exactly, Yefeng Centipede hurriedly explained. The reason why I was able to fight him for 300 rounds is because after the Demon Emperor fought him, he consumed a huge amount of internal power and there was not much left. Having said that, Yefeng Centipede had tears in his eyes, and said with shame on his face, I thought I could rescue the Demon Emperor, but my centipede has limited power. Blame me, and blame me for being useless. Seeing this, the Eagle King and others were not happy. I knew I was wrong about the Night Wind Centipede. So he hurried over, patted Yefeng Centipede on the shoulder, and comforted softly, Yefeng Yowling, I was the one who said too much just now, don't take it to heart, everyone knows you tried your best. Yeah, everyone sees your efforts to save the Demon Emperor. The Leopard King also comforted, you should take good care of your wounds. Let us do the work of saving the Demon Emperor. What's so funny? Yefeng Centipede flashed his eyes and said embarrassedly. The strength you should have released has been released, and then you can rest well. The Monkey King said. Hearing this, the others nodded in agreement. Okay, you Demon Kings, then I'm welcome. I'll go back to recuperate for a few days, and when the injury heals, I'll come to help everyone. Yefeng Centipede said movedly, and then transformed into a body and slowly climbed out of the canyon. As soon as he climbed out of the canyon, he ran into a dirt bag, dug out a pile of treasures, and then quickly climbed out of the mountain without looking back. Everyone, the arrest of the Demon Emperor is of great importance. Let's make up your mind. The Leopard King stood in the center, presided over the overall situation. According to the information conveyed by the Yefeng Demon Spirit, this human should be stronger than the Demon Emperor, but it shouldn't be much stronger. The Eagle King pondered. Otherwise, the Yefeng Demon Spirit would not have the ability to follow him. 300 rounds of battle. Yes, the Eagle King is right. The Monkey King came out and said, but even so, this person's strength is not something I can deal with, and I'm more curious as to why he has to take away the Demon King and even make soup. Everyone also nodded solemnly. What was the purpose of this person? For a while, the atmosphere fell into silence. Finally, the Pig King walked out and said, he took the Demon Emperor and promised to make soup. This move undoubtedly has a lot of humiliation. In addition, humans have always hated my demon world, so his move is likely to be deliberately provocative, and even declare war on the monsters in my Soganate Mountains. That's right, but it's also possible that he came to seek revenge. King Deer interjected. As for the humans who usually go to the mountains, you should eat a few more or less, not to mention the Demon Emperor over the years. Looking at these people who are likely to be eaten, there are descendants or apprentices of this person. What the Deer King said makes sense. The Monkey King said, humans always have their revenge, and they pay attention to how to repay their own body with their own way. This is just in line with his purpose of stewing the Demon Emperor's soup. The two reasons that everyone guessed are inseparable from 10 to 10. The Leopard King nodded and said, but no matter what, we can't rescue the Demon Emperor alone, so let's take a specific note. I think, no matter what the reason is, this human's action is to declare war on the monsters in our Soganate mountain range. The Eagle King said in a deep voice, and human beings are the common enemy of our monster world. He is so provocative, we can completely report this matter to the Demon Emperors in the other territories and ask them to ask for help. I agree too. Although there is friction between our territories, in the face of the common enemy, they will definitely put aside their prejudice temporarily. The other Demon Kings also nodded at this moment. After paying attention, the 18 Demon Kings turned into streamers and fled far away. In just one day, the 18 Demon Kings contacted the Demon Kings in other territories of Mufu Mountain. Sure enough, when facing the common enemy of mankind, the other Demon Emperors chose to put aside their usual grievances and help. Following the orders of several Demon Emperors, the demon beasts of the entire Mufu Mountains united and issued a lore order. As soon as the killing order came out, the entire Soganate Mountains were shaken by a big earthquake, and countless ordinary animals were in a panic, and the monsters who usually hid in the dark and never came out of the mountain. In the mountains, this Cloud Road flower is really hard to find. Yi Feng carried Da Wangba in one hand, and continued to walk while carrying a small bamboo basket. Looks like I'm so lost. Yi Feng looked at the map in his hand with a dark face, full of anger. He walked in this mountain range for a long time, and he didn't go out. Curse you to give birth to a son without fart. Why? What? There seem to be a lot of people ahead. Just when he didn't know what to do, Yi Feng saw a lot of people gathered halfway up the mountain in front, and his eyes lit up immediately. I don't know what these people do, but they should know the way, right? Yi Feng carried Wang Ba and walked towards these people quickly. Stop, who? However, just as Yi Feng approached, two young men with swords flew over and stopped in front of Yi Feng. Cultivator. Yi Feng was slightly surprised, but quickly calmed down and said with a smile, "Hello, I'm here to ask for directions. Do you know how to get out of this mountain range?" "I don't know, get out." The two young men shouted unceremoniously. "Isn't that necessary?" Yi Feng frowned and said, "Why don't I just ask for a way?" "A little mortal, dare to talk back." The faces of the two youths were angry, and the long swords in their hands suddenly came out, approaching Yi Feng. This made Yi Feng frown directly. They are both monks, so why is the gap so big? Like the Qingshan gate near them, it seems that the rules are very good. Stop. At this moment, a voice came from Li Yin, which directly stopped the two young people. Miss Li. When the two young people saw this, they stepped back and bowed quickly, with admiration in their eyes, and at the same time a trace of respect. Yi Feng also looked over. She was a woman of 28 years. She wears a white dress, which outlines a beautiful figure, bright eyes and white teeth, 3,000 blue silk draped behind her shoulders, slender jade hands hold Qingfeng lightly, and her pretty brows are frowning, exuding a coldness and majesty. What happened? The woman asked coldly. Miss Li, I don't know where a blind mortal came from and disturbed the girl. We will drive him away. The two young men said quickly, and they were about to drive them away. However, the woman waved her jade hand. Seeing this, the two young people looked puzzled, but did not dare to question. The woman looked at Yi Feng with bright and beautiful eyes, looked up and down, the bamboo basket in the back, the king in her hand. Eighth, plus the unwavering breath told her that this is indeed immortal. Involuntarily, she let go of her guard and said emotionlessly, "What's the matter with you?" Although this woman is cold, she feels a lot of reason, so Yi Feng also politely said, "Girl, I just want to ask for directions. How do I get out of this mountain?" Ask for directions. The woman frowned slightly, and said coldly, "Those who don't know are fearless. You dare to run wild in this mountain." After speaking, she turned and left, but at the same time, Li Yin came out. "You two send him down the mountain. You must do it, otherwise he will not be able to live in this mountain." "Thank you, girl." Upon seeing this, Yi Feng politely thanked him. However, she didn't respond anymore. Qian Qianyu held up her snow-white long skirt, sat cross-legged on the ground, and slowly closed her bright eyes. The two young people walked down the mountain with Yi Feng, but they turned around and left after they had not gone far. "Hey, two brothers, why is this?" Yi Feng looked at the two of them in confusion. They hadn't gone out yet. "HMPH, kid, you are content. If it wasn't for Miss Li's face, I wouldn't want to tell you a little mortal, and if you can't go down the mountain, what does it matter to us whether you live or die?" The young man said disdainfully. "That's right, it's just a mortal, it's a cheap life, and it's not a pity to die." Another young man also made a mocking voice, and then the two swept up high and left quickly, obviously not wanting to worry about Yi Feng's life or death. Fine. Yi Feng pinched his nose and didn't care. The two generations had already had a good mood, and continued to look for the way with the old man. I just don't understand why the woman said it was dangerous here. Apart from the occasional wild beasts, it seems to be fine. Perhaps the cultivator's nerves are more nervous. Send down the mountain. After the two young people rushed back, the woman sitting cross-legged slowly opened her eyes and asked with a blank face. Send it out. The two young men looked at each other, lowered their heads and said tacitly. The woman glanced at them and continued to close her eyes. However, in the next moment, she felt an absolute sense of crisis coming, and before she could react, a strong demonic energy erupted in the sky. As a shadow on the ground struck, a huge eagle attacked with its sharp claws, accompanied by a sound full of killing intent. All the human beings in the mountains, not a single one. Chapter 111. What? As the sound fell, the Eagle King's sharp claws swept past, blood splattered everywhere, and the bodies of the two young men just burst out. At the same time, countless monsters rushed out of the forest and surrounded them. What? A lot of monsters. How is this going? Seeing this, Everyone immediately showed panic, and the densely packed monsters almost made their scalps numb. And the woman sitting on the ground also changed her face, and as soon as the long sword in her hand came out, accompanied by a strong sword energy, a sword light shrouded the Eagle King. Boom! The long sword fell on the Eagle King's sharp claws, and a dazzling spark suddenly flashed. Human, you must die. The Eagle King raised his head and screamed, his wings spread out and turned into sharp swords and rushed into the sky, and then turned sharply down, shrouding the woman with a powerful momentum. The woman frowned slightly. The long sword swept, turned into thousands of sword beams, and then merged into one, forming a shocking sword from bottom to top, stabbing straight out. In an instant, the sword energy in the field was pressing. Boom! The two powerful forces collided together, and suddenly turned into a huge shock wave that spread out, and countless trees were cut off under this violent fluctuation. At the same time, the ground also set off a sky of dust. Humph! Under the power of this sword, the Eagle King groaned in his mouth, and his huge body was shaken and rolled out, and only after a few hundred meters did he stabilize his body, but the sharp claws were still injured by the sword energy, scarlet red. The blood dripped down the sky. Dang-a-dang-a-dang. At the same time, the woman stepped on the ground, but only a few steps. Obviously, she has the absolute upper hand in this collision. But her bright eyes showed a dignified color. Although she had the upper hand, the other disciples fell one by one under the attack of such a huge group of monsters. In less than a moment, it was half down. What exactly is going on? She frowned tightly. Usually, there are quite a few monsters in this mountain range, but as long as you avoid them, there will be no trouble, and such a huge group of monsters will never gather. And the eagle that attacked him just now must have already reached the realm of the Demon King. Such characters do not appear in ordinary situations. Roar! Just as she was dignified, a mighty leopard swept out of the jungle with a roar that shook the forest. Boom! The earth trembled again, and the Pig King stepped on the ground with heavy limbs and charged. Two Demon Kings again. The woman frowned tightly, and when she looked up, the Eagle King, who was injured but did not lose his fighting power, was also whistling in the sky and galloped again. Almost without saying a word, the three Demon Kings launched a storm-like attack on the woman. The woman is not to be outdone. She is obviously a female class, but at this moment, she has a pressing aura, and the whole person seems to be turned into a sharp sword, and she is still able to deal with the attacks of the three Demon Kings with ease. What? Ah, help! However, there were more and more screams coming from those disciples. Even if the woman wanted to rescue her, she couldn't escape under the attack of the three Demon Kings. Finally, the last disciple fell down in front of the woman with a face full of fear. On the ground, fragmented corpses. The blood stained the land, and the pungent smell of blood enveloped the entire mountain forest. The woman's face was frosty and her heart was trembling. These were all elite disciples in her sect. HMPH, you dare to be distracted while fighting with us. At this moment, the Leopard King sneered and whistled with the giant claws of Gangfang. The woman's complexion changed greatly, but it was too late to hold the sword to block. The white skirt at the lower abdomen shattered, leaving a horrific wound. Immediately dyed the shirt red. She stepped back in a hurry. Her bright eyes looked at the corpse unwillingly, her red lips clenched her teeth, and she turned into a streamer and quickly fled. Chase. The three Demon Kings looked at each other, obviously not wanting to let her go because of her beauty. The woman is still stronger than the three Demon Kings in speed. After a chase, she finally escaped from their pursuit temporarily. However, her situation is still not optimistic. Due to excessive blood loss, a pretty face has turned pale, and he can only stumble and drag the injured body on the road. At the same time, her delicate forehead has never been relieved. She came all the way and found that the entire mountain range was full of monsters, and many of them had the breath of other monster kings passing by. What is the problem? She looked suspicious. This kind of thing is unprecedented. Seeing a little demon not far away, with the purpose of solving her doubts, her ghostly body flickered away, and her jade hand landed directly on top of the little demon's head. Soul search. As Xiao Yao's memories flooded into her mind, her beautiful eyes flickered, her red lips opened wider and wider involuntarily, and finally she screamed in surprise. How can there be such a powerful person? But just in her surprise, a strong sense of crisis came. Then it was discovered that there were bursts of movement from different directions in front. Obviously, the pursuers came. She frowned immediately, her beautiful eyes looked at the cliff behind her, her red lips clenched tightly, and she jumped down unwillingly. ... This broken place has finally come out. Yi Feng carried the Wangba in his hand and walked lazily. Obviously, the temperature in the mountains is not high, but after this journey, the body has long been covered with sweat. Hey, there's a pool here. Yi Feng's eyes lit up. He walked over to test the water temperature, and found that it wasn't cold. He even took off his clothes and jumped into the water naked. Comfortable, Yi Feng washed his body clean, stepped on the water with the soles of his feet, and his upper body was exposed to the water just up to his waist. Facing the sunlight coming from the forest, he smiled comfortably. Boom! At this moment, a shadow suddenly fell from the sky, setting off a splash of water several feet high. The water splashed on his face, and the splashed Yi Feng's face made him unable to see the situation clearly. When the water subsided, he looked again, but found nothing. What the hell? Yi Feng was still stepping on the water, observing, and even when the water surface was completely calm, nothing was found. I guess it's a falling stone, right? He thought so. But the next moment, he realized that something was swimming up under his legs. It's not a snake, is it? Yi Feng looked terrified. In the next moment, he was shocked all over. It seemed that this thing was going to attack him. Yi Feng panicked and wanted to retreat, but suddenly a head popped out right in front of his waist. Her face just came out of the water, revealing a pair of big eyes staring at herself. Is a woman. Yi Feng also looked down at the face that was so close at hand, and was immediately stunned. For a while, the two stared at each other. Brute. Suddenly, a jade hand appeared on the surface of the water, and a slap slapped Yi Feng's face. I am grass. Yi Feng was stunned when he was slapped. He slapped back without saying a word, and cursed at the same time, you scared me and slapped me. This slap also immediately stunned the woman. The pretty face that was cold and frosty was suddenly enveloped in a strong killing intent. A long sword appeared in his hand, the wet body burst out of the water, and a sword stabbed towards Yi Feng. But when she was in midair, she had just charged up, but found that the strength in her body was insufficient, and she stumbled and smashed down from midair, landing on top of Yi Feng's head. I wipe. Following Yi Feng's roar, the two entered the water. The breeze is blowing, and the leaves are dancing in the forest. It was near dusk, and the fire was lingering. I don't know if it was because of the fire or the sunset. The sky was red and bright, which was very beautiful. The woman opened her eyes slowly, and her icy body seemed to be getting better under the warmth of the fire. Afterwards, a young man dressed in Xingyi walked towards her with Wangba in his left hand and a bamboo basket on his back. She frowned in surprise. It's you. Only then did she recognize that this young man was the mortal person she met in the mountains. Yes, it's me. Yi Feng hung Wangba on the tree, put down the bamboo basket, and said angrily, do you know that you really scared me to death just now? Hearing this, the woman's face was frosty. Unexpectedly, this young man actually took the lead in finding her trouble before he launched the attack. However, she is not an unreasonable person. Although she was angry for a while at the beginning, she really did not blame Yi Feng in retrospect at this time. Of course, when she remembered what happened to the water pool just now, her face was still ugly. That scene is really hard to tell. Especially when this mortal actually slapped her, really. However, looking at the clothes covering her body and the youth who had no ill intentions, she still held back the anger in her heart. Come on, fish, make up your body. Yi Feng handed over the grilled fish in his hand. The woman frowned and said coldly, you know I'm Wushu. So what? Yi Feng rolled her eyes at her and said, don't you want to eat? The woman frowned, returned her expressionless face, and said, this kind of thing is useless to me. Yi Feng opened his eyes, stood up and said, fish is useless to you, then won't you be the fool who misses me? Said, Yi Feng was reluctant. Although this old man is a great supplement, this is what I want to bring to my little Zongqing to eat. Hearing the words, the woman's face immediately shrugged, and she was a little dumbfounded at this mortal in front of her. She was a dignified monk of the king of martial arts, would she miss a fool? How ridiculous. Looking at the heartless Yi Feng, the woman who was disdainful of speaking couldn't help but ask, you are a mortal, come into this mountain range, aren't you afraid? What's there to be afraid of? Yi Feng spit out a fishbone and asked in confusion. The woman's voice fell silent. Forget it, mortals' thinking is always limited, and many things are not understood at all. Telling him is like playing the piano to a cow, but looking at the clothes covering her, she hesitated for a while and then said, after you finish eating, think of a way to go down the mountain. Quote. Yi Feng raised his head. Because if you don't go down the mountain, you will die. The woman said solemnly, and without waiting for Yi Feng to ask questions, she continued, in this mountain, there is a big event that you mortals can't imagine. Saying that, she raised her head slightly. In his mind, the memory from the soul search of the little demon could not help but emerge. It's not possible to go down the mountain for the time being. I still have to collect herbs. Yi Feng shook his head and smiled, however, I'm curious about what happened. Pick medicine. The woman looked at Yi Feng in surprise, and said coldly, are you really not afraid of death? Well, after speaking, the woman turned serious, looked at Yi Feng and said, let you understand how high and thick the sky is in this world, lest you continue to be obsessed and lose your life. There are monsters in this world, you know. The woman asked. Heard about it. Yi Feng nodded. In this Soganate mountain range, there are many monsters, and the strongest of them have reached the realm of the Monster Emperor. The woman said leisurely. The realm of the Demon Emperor is already the lord of the demon realm, and this incident happened to the owner of our territory for thousands of miles, the Demon Emperor Bogu. Although this Bogu Demon Emperor was cultivated by Wang Ba, his cultivation is extremely deep due to his long lifespan. Yi Feng listened attentively. Although he still had no idea about the Demon Emperor, it sounded awesome. But it was such a master who commanded 10,000 demons, but he was caught. The woman said again. Caught? Yi Feng asked in surprise. The woman nodded, and her tone became solemn, and continued, it's a human, a very strong human. Speaking of this, she looked in awe, with yearning in her eyes. This person is so powerful that he broke into the cave of the Bogu Demon Emperor alone, and not only took away the treasure of the Demon Emperor, but also arrested the Demon Emperor to life, saying that he wanted to. How about it? Yi Feng was also aroused by curiosity. The woman's tone couldn't help but said in shock, I said that I want to take this Demon Emperor home and make soup. Drink stew. Yi Feng opened his mouth wide and subconsciously glanced at the old man who was hanging on the tree. He didn't expect that this master would catch this king and the Demon Emperor and drink soup. This hobby is really comparable to him. And precisely because of this, it caused the anger of all the monsters in the entire Mufu Mountains. The woman said with lingering fears, under the cooperation of several other demon emperors, the demon beasts of the entire Soganate mountain range have launched a lore order against this human powerhouse, but this human being has not been found, but my swordsman sect disciple has suffered an unwarranted disaster. Quote. However, this Bogu Demon Emperor has been doing evil for many years. Although some of my swordsman sect disciples have died, it is worth it to be able to get rid of this evil. So, in normal times, if you're lucky, you might be able to survive, but now. The woman's voice paused. Shaking his head, he looked at Yi Feng and said solemnly, as long as you are discovered by monsters, you will have no way to survive, especially if you are just a mortal. So you should go down the mountain as soon as possible. This really embarrassed Yi Feng. Let's separate. The woman stood up and said, I have several demon kings following me. If you follow me, I'm afraid I won't have the time to care about you. With that said, the woman was about to leave with a long sword in her hand. Wait, Yi Feng shouted. The woman stopped tilting her head. You still have injuries, why don't you apply some herbs? Yi Feng said, I still have herbs here. I got it with good intentions, but. The woman was slightly grateful, but she bluntly refused, your mortal things are useless to me. After that, the woman's body flashed and disappeared into the woods. After the woman left, Yi Feng was also distressed on the spot, but thinking about it carefully, the mountain was not so scary. After all, he came down these days and did not encounter any danger. If there is any danger, a wolf came to attack him before. Anyway, Yi Feng also practiced a few hands and shot him to death with a shovel. Besides, he still needs to find medicine for Zhang Qing. No medicine could be found. Although Zhang Qing had no worries about his life under the previous treatment, he would have serious sequelae. At such an age, he didn't want his apprentice to suffer from any disease. Shake. 3 days have passed. In a mountain forest, the sword-wielding woman had a solemn expression on her face, and there was a trace of blood hanging from the corner of her mouth. Just now, she had another battle, and she and the 2 demon kings lost both sides. Of course, this is not the most dignified. The most dignified is that the entire mountain range has been blocked by the monsters, and she can't get out at all. While dragging her tired body, she was thinking about the way to escape, and at the same time she thought of the young man 3 days ago. He couldn't help but let out a wry smile. She can't escape from the strength of the dignified King Wu, let alone this young man. In today's mountain range where monsters are crisscrossed, I'm afraid I can't survive a night. After all, a mortal body, even if I encounter any little monster, I'm afraid I can't escape. In the entire mountain range today, except for the mysterious master who disappeared, it is estimated that she is the only living person left. Although I have regrets in my heart, I just met that person by chance. There is nothing she can do about this. There is only one regret. At this moment, she heard a movement in front of her, and her ghostly body flickered away, her eyes widened in disbelief. That blue shirt, the familiar figure of the hand-carrying fool, carrying a small bamboo basket. This is not the young man, or who? Are you still humming? The woman's pretty face showed a deep surprise. In the past 3 days, she took every step of the way, but she still encountered many monsters, and there were several dangers. In the end, with her strength and some luck, she survived. However, this mortal carrying Wang Ba was safe and sound, and even his simple green robe remained spotless. Is the monster in this mountain unable to lift the knife, or is it blind? Or is this mortal lucky? But she is so unlucky. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't figure out how Yi Feng managed to stay safe and sound, because in her opinion, not to mention a mortal, even a martial arts expert in today's mountain range would be in a situation of no life. With great doubts in her heart, she swept her figure and chased after Yi Feng. It is you. Yi Feng smiled in surprise when he saw the person coming. But the woman didn't speak. Those smart eyes looked at Yi Feng up and down. He looked even more surprised. Yi Feng actually didn't even look embarrassed at all. After a long time, she took a deep breath and said with a complicated expression, I can't believe that you are a mortal still alive. What did you say? Hearing this, Yi Feng's face suddenly sank. Isn't that cursing him to death? Sorry, I didn't mean anything else, I was just surprised. The woman explained quickly, but the incredible look on her face persisted for a long time. All right, Yi Feng nodded indifferently. The two exchanged a few more words, and the woman was about to leave. Before leaving, she said complicatedly, I hope you will be so lucky next time. Yi Feng couldn't help but smiled helplessly. This woman is really neurotic. How can there be such danger in this mountain, as she said? After so many days, he didn't see bumps or bumps. But this woman is still a good person. At that time, when he asked for directions, he sent someone to take him down the mountain, so he took out a small package and said, I have a deworming bag here. I made it myself with herbs, or else are you taking it with you? The woman glanced at the insect repellent bag and frowned. I think you need this more than me, right? It should be you who need it more. Yi Feng said with a leisurely smile, after all, this thing is not necessary for me. Yi Feng didn't say anything wrong. When he thinks about it, although this girl is a cultivator, she should still hate snakes, worms and ants. In comparison, he is much more immune to such things as a man. I need more. The woman felt a little amused. To be honest, this kind of mortal object has long lost its effect on a martial cultivator like her. However, seeing Yi Feng's smiling face, she still accepted the insect repellent bag and hung it on her waist. Although he is lucky, this kind of luck may not be able to keep it forever. Most likely a dying person. Just take it as the last consolation for him. After saying that, the woman glanced at Yi Feng and swept away into the jungle. Another day at dusk. In a dark canyon, the Eagle King is attached to a rock. On the side, there was a pair of gloomy eyes flashing, and while spitting out the snake letter, it opened its mouth and asked, Eagle King, how is it? There is still no trace of the Demon Emperor yet. The Eagle King frowned and said, under the lore order, except for a human being, the Martial King, who is still alive, all the other humans have been cleaned up, but just now according to the little demon's report, another human youth was discovered. In order to prevent accidents, please run with me, Snake King. Serve the Demon Emperor, it should be. The voice fell, and the two monsters turned into two streams of light, leading a large number of monsters to rush towards the mountain where they were located. The woman who had just left with Yifeng felt these powerful fluctuations and rushed in Yifeng's direction, and her beautiful eyes, who were hiding in the dark, suddenly wrinkled. Has he been found? The woman clenched her teeth tightly, hesitating whether to go back and rescue Yifeng. But feeling the aura of the two demon kings, she still gave up this plan, because she is now seriously injured, and she is no longer the opponent of the two demon kings. When she went back, it was nothing but to die. I hope you in the next life will not recklessly enter this dangerous place again. She sighed heavily. Although she felt regretful in her heart, she was helpless, her body swept away slightly and disappeared into the jungle. Although there are no monsters that the woman said, there are quite a few beasts that have been haunting recently. Yifeng's cursing voice came out. Over the past 2 days, there have been countless snakes, wild boars, crows and other animals that seem to be in heat, trying their best to harass him, making him very annoying. It can be said that he has not slept well recently. Looking at the sky, he knew that he couldn't be on his way today, so Yifeng had to prepare to sleep on the spot. But those animals in heat have to find a way. Thinking of this, Yifeng took out a small medicine bottle from the small bamboo basket, and then dumped the powder in the medicine bottle around the camp. This is the medicine powder specially prepared by Yifeng before coming, and it is similar to the use of realgar. This medicinal powder may not be able to prevent large beasts like wild boars, but there is no problem in trying to prevent some insects and ants. After doing this, Yifeng yawned, propped up his tired body, leaned on the rock and fell asleep. On top of a mountain, headed by the Eagle King and the Snake King, countless monsters descended here. Everyone, be sure to find this person, regardless of whether he is the person we are looking for, kill Wush. The Eagle King flashed gloomy eyes and ordered the other monsters around. Yes, following his order, countless monsters spread in all directions. Let's wait for the news here, said the Eagle King. The Snake King nodded, just about to close his eyes and calm down, when he suddenly discovered something and asked in surprise, is that Yifeng's centipede? Hearing this, the Eagle King also forgot his gaze and frowned. Isn't Yifeng's centipede recovering in the cave? Why did he come here? With that said, the Eagle King swept out, and the sharp claws grabbed the Yifeng centipede directly. Ah, King Eagle, why are you here? Yifeng centipede stared at him and asked in a panic. As the servant of the Bogu Demon Emperor, he knew that the Bogu Demon Emperor once hid a powerful spiritual energy bead here, and he wanted to run with the spiritual energy bead. Lu did not expect to be caught by the Eagle King as soon as he got it. I also want to ask, why are you here? The Eagle King stared at him sharply and asked, aren't you recuperating in the cave? Yifeng centipede hid the spiritual energy behind him with lightning speed, and turned his small eyes and hurriedly said, the Demon Emperor has been arrested, how can I stay in the cave to recuperate? I won't rush out to see if there is any trace of that human being. Hearing this, the Eagle King's face was slightly relieved. He asked again, have you found anything about the Night Wind Demon Spirit? Found out. Yifeng centipede was anxious, hesitating for a long time, and then said with a sullen scowl, it must have been discovered, and I think that human being is likely to be nearby. After speaking, Yifeng centipede lowered his head in a guilty conscience, not daring to look at the Eagle King. But what he didn't expect was that the Eagle King nodded in relief and said with appreciation, Yifeng centipede, you really have a heart. As expected of the existence of the 6 demon emperors, you were right, according to reliable information, there are indeed some people around here. A human being, whether it is that person or not is yet to be determined. So Yifeng yowling, follow me and the Snake King to find out. Yifeng centipede nodded his head and widened his eyes after reacting. Why, Yifeng yowling is unwilling to contribute to Lord Yalwang? The Eagle King asked with a frown. No, how could it be? I can't wait to give my life for the Demon Emperor. Yifeng centipede said righteously, but at the same time, his small eyes were turning quickly, trying to find an opportunity to escape. After a while, a little demon came to report and found Yifeng's trace. Let's go Snake King, Yifeng Spirit King, said the Eagle King. Good. Yefeng Centipede wiped his sweat, and he had to follow after the disciples of the two big demon kings. Approaching the destination, the Eagle King frowned. Sure enough, there is a human breath, but there is not much fluctuation. Pass my order, first completely surround this person, wait for my order, and then shoot him together. The Eagle King immediately issued an order, obviously not wanting something like Yujianzong to happen, so that the martial king human has not been caught yet. Perhaps, the clues to the whereabouts of the demon emperor could have been obtained from the hands of these humans. The demons immediately surrounded Yifeng, staring at him with cold eyes. But Yifeng was unaware of all this and still fell asleep on the stone. Superior. Following the Eagle King's order, dozens of monsters around him suddenly turned into streamers and shrouded Yifeng. In a blink, then he arrived around Yifeng. However, the next moment, those monsters suddenly paused, their bodies suddenly softened, and their eyes began to turn black. How is this going? All the demons showed panicked expressions, and those who were inadvertently in strength even returned to their original bodies and died suddenly on the ground. What happened? The Eagle King suddenly became vigilant. Report to the Demon King, it is poisonous, this human being has poisoned the surroundings. One of the demon spirits had a condensed expression on his face. Said heavily, poison. The Eagle King glanced over, and sure enough, there was a circle of medicinal powder on the ground, but this did not make him retreat, because in his opinion, since the martial spirits under his command could persist, it showed that the poison was limited. Snake King, it seems we have to do it ourselves. The Eagle King looked at the Snake King and said. The Snake King nodded, and at the same time looked at Yefeng Centipede, and said, Yefeng Demon Spirit, you have followed several demon emperors, and your strength must be comparable to that of ordinary demon spirits. Let's take action together. Having said that, the Eagle King and the Snake King turned into the strongest monsters to be on the safe side, and rushed out. All right, Yefeng Centipede nodded reluctantly, but remembered that it was a human with no fluctuations anyway, and there must be no danger, so it turned into its main body and followed. Just as they were about to start, Yifeng, who was lying on the rock, turned over, revealing a side face. And just so, this profile face was caught in the eyes of Yefeng Centipede. Gah! This look almost made Yefeng Centipede's eyeballs explode. It was like a fishbone stuck in his throat, his mind was dazed, and a severe fear rose in his heart. It was this person who killed Heiyu with a shovel, and then tied the Bogu Demon Emperor with a straw rope. Thinking of this, he had no intention of fighting, and just wanted to save his life. As soon as his eyes rolled, the countless calves stared, his belly turned over, and he fell to the ground without the slightest expectation. Yefeng Centipede, what are you doing? What is the problem? The abnormality of Yefeng Centipede immediately caused the reaction of the two Eagle Kings, and the two of them shouted. However, no matter how the two of them shouted, Yefeng Centipede lay on the ground and didn't respond at all. But the Eagle King and the Snake King couldn't care about him at the moment. After looking at each other, the size of their bodies increased sharply, and they turned into an eagle and a snake and attacked Yifeng. However, when they were within a few feet of Yifeng, the hearts of the two demons trembled. Dignifiedly found that they underestimated this so-called toxin, because the few demon spirits that were still able to support before also died quickly at this moment, and fell to the ground as their bodies. And under this toxin, the strength of the two of them is also rapidly depleted, and it is not even enough to support the enlarged body, and soon returns to the original size. What the hell is going on? The two demon kings widened their eyes and shouted in panic, but their bodies were unable to perform their duties and could only lie on the ground weakly. Human, so despicable. The Eagle King lay on the ground, cursing viciously. Quick, call for support. The Snake King was even more unbearable than the Eagle King, his body squirmed violently on the ground, and his lower skin was worn out by the intense friction. The Eagle King didn't dare to delay, he struggled with the last bit of strength in his body, and shot a streamer and flew out. At this moment, Yifeng, who heard the movement, woke up. I don't know if I don't see it, but when I look at the next jump, how long will it take? There are so many beasts around. My medicine is really awesome. Yifeng couldn't help boasting. He thought he could only prevent snakes and insects, but he didn't expect that a lot of roe deer, pangolins, and so on died. What a sin. Looking at the corpses all over the ground, Yi Feng couldn't bear it, but when he saw the dying snake on the ground, he couldn't help it. Smashing his lips, he grabbed the snake with one hand. I just haven't eaten yet. I have been eating barbecue every day recently, and my mouth is full of bubbles. Make a snake soup to fill my stomach and clear the fire at the same time. Yi Feng murmured in his mouth, and took out from the small bamboo basket. He took a small pot and boiled another pot of boiling water. After cutting the snake, he threw it in. Snake, Snake King. The Eagle King Jia Ji, who witnessed all this, stared at him, watching his companion die so tragically, and his heart immediately set off a storm. At the same time, monstrous anger and humiliation arose, and he struggled with his body, desperately mobilizing the power in his body, trying to dispel the toxins in his body. However, at this moment, he subconsciously glanced, but he almost lost his soul in shock. On the dead tree beside the water pool, on the rock, and hanging with straw ropes, isn't that the Bogu Wowang they thought hard at night? Hiss. The Eagle King reacted suddenly. It turned out that in front of him was the hateful and terrifying human being who had captured the Bogu Demon Emperor. He couldn't help but shivered and shivered violently. At the same time, he also lost his fighting spirit. Coupled with the urge of the medicine, his eyelids became heavier and heavier. But at this moment, a voice came. There's an eagle here, so tonight's food is even better. This sentence directly became the last straw to crush him, and the Eagle King passed out. Yi Feng, who was refreshed after a sleep, hummed a little tune in his mouth, and began to pick up the snake and the eagle. While he was busy, a centipede's legs and claws moved around, and then suddenly crawled and disappeared. It's terrifying, it's terrifying. Running all the way, Yefeng Centipede has lingering fears. Especially when he thought of the tragic situation of the Eagle King and the Snake King, he was sweating coldly. Originally, there were several treasures in the Bogu Demon Emperor, and he didn't have time to think about it anymore. He just wanted to escape from this mountain range. However, he had just run not far, an earth-shattering voice came out, rushing towards him. It was the other dozen or so demon kings who came. They received calls from the Eagle King and the Snake King for help, so they gathered all the demon beasts in the Bogu territory as quickly as possible and rushed to the location of the incident. Seeing this, Yefeng Centipede's heart throbbed, and cold sweat poured out. Once let them know that the Snake King Eagle King is dead, and he escaped himself, isn't it? Roll your eyes. He was ruthless, and decisively kicked off both legs. After hesitating for a moment, he glared at another, and crawled on the ground dying. And the first-class demon king headed by the Leopard King also saw the Yefeng Centipede crawling hard on the ground. He rushed over and asked with a sullen face, Yefeng Demon Spirit, are you? Yefeng Centipede waving its tail interrupted the Leopard King's words. Under countless pairs of eyes, he seemed to have used up the last ounce of strength in his body. The voice came out with difficulty. Don't talk too much, don't ask too much. Severely disabled. A little bit. Go quickly. Yefeng Centipede's words surprised all the demons present. What's going on? The Leopard King asked solemnly. Yefeng Centipede sighed softly, raised its head slightly, and seemed to be caught up in the battle just now. Just by the stream in front, the Eagle King and the Snake King found the trace of the man. Later, the three of us joined forces to fight him. In this battle, the Eagle King and the Snake King died on the spot, and the seriously injured self-awareness incapable of fighting anymore, in order to prevent him from escaping, I had to use up the last ounce of strength and ran out to report to you at the cost of 3 legs. When the words fell, all the demons present cast a respectful look at Yefeng Centipede. That battle must have been brutal. Even the Eagle King and the Snake King were killed in battle, so the Yefeng Demon Spirit must have paid a huge price to be able to run out and report the news. Yefeng Yaoling, it is a blessing for our territory to have a loyal and dedicated person like you in the territory. The Leopard King said solemnly. You have a good rest, leave the next things to us, we will take care of it. The Demon King was rescued and at the same time avenged the Snake King and the Eagle King. The Leopard King's words attracted the approval of all the demons. No, I'm really ashamed to say it. Seeing the Demon King being arrested, the Snake King and the Eagle King being heroic, I can't do anything, Yefeng Centipede lowered his head and said with guilt. Yefeng Demon Spirit, what are you talking about? You and the Snake King Eagle King have done too much for our territory. The Pig King said quickly. This person is not even his opponent, even the Demon King fighting alone. But it is enough to make him severely disabled. Yes, we already owe too much to other territories, and in this way, we don't need to rely on the demon emperors of other territories. So, the three of you are the great heroes of our territory. Next, leave it to us. Everyone obeys the order. This person is seriously disabled. Go all out to rescue the Demon King and avenge the Snake King Eagle King. The voice fell, everyone's emotions were high, and they set off quickly with unprecedented morale, rushing towards Yi Feng's location. And after the Leopard King and others left, the Yifeng centipede, which was just dying, suddenly burst into an unprecedented speed. In a blink, just disappear. ... This cloud road flower is really hard to find. Yifeng drank snake soup, ate eagle meat, and looked at the rolling mountains and couldn't help feeling emotional. After I was full, I saw that it was still dark, so I decided to go to the nearby mountains to look for it. After all, he had time, but Zhongqing might not be able to wait so long. So Yifeng picked up the small shovel and was ready to set off. Just 2 steps away, Yifeng weighed the old man in his hand, turned and hung it on the tree. After all, it's not a problem to carry the old man of several kilograms like this. Anyway, it will come back when it gets dark, and no one will take it if it hangs on the tree temporarily. How is this going? In the jungle, the sword-wielding woman looked around in amazement. She suddenly discovered that all the monsters in the forest were gathered in one direction. And this direction is exactly where she came from. Similarly, it is also where Yifeng is. Although I don't know what these monsters are for, I'm afraid you won't have that kind of luck this time. The woman sighed slightly, but there is nothing that can be done. After all, everyone has their own destiny, and good luck cannot always favor one person. Fortunately, all the monsters above the monster spirit gathered in that direction, which made her feel more relaxed than ever. However, I'll wait for the people from the sect to come, and then I'll go. The woman thought for a while and wanted to leave, but as early as a day ago, she told Zongzong what happened here using a secret method. In her capacity, it was impossible for Swordsman Sect to not send someone. Although now is the best time for her to go out, to be on the safe side, she still intends to talk to the Swordsman Sect. But at this moment, the big demon with more than a dozen demon spirits such as the Leopard King finally arrived at the stream. However, after arriving by the stream, except for Yingmao and the corpses of the monsters left before, no trace of Yifeng was found. What about people? The Panther King shouted loudly. The other demons also glanced around with sharp eyes. They didn't want to run around and pounce, or else they would fail the information Yifeng centipede exchanged for the price of 3 legs. Look at that! Just when they couldn't find Yifeng, the Pig King suddenly exclaimed. Hearing this, all the demons turned their attention to the past. Beside the creek, on the tree trunk beside the bluestone, the old King 8 was bound by a straw rope. Isn't that the Bogu Demon Emperor they thought about day and night? The dignified Demon Emperor was hung on the tree like this, and the eyes of the demons almost burst out, and their blood rushed to their foreheads. Listen to my order, save the Demon Emperor. It's getting dark soon. Yifeng turned around in the surrounding jungle, but still did not see any trace of Yunlahua. Looking at the darkening sky, he could only reluctantly rush back to the camp. But when he just walked back to the camp, when he raised his head, he was stunned. At this moment, around his camp, the bodies of all kinds of beasts are full of corpses, such as leopards, wild boars, wolves, all kinds. No way, I didn't concoct a super poison, I just concocted it for Realgar. Looking at the death of these animals, and thinking of the snakes and eagles that died before, Yifeng can guess that the cause of death of these beasts is probably the powder that he spilled. Sin. Yifeng couldn't help curling his lips, and hurriedly threw the medicine bottle in his hand, for fear of poisoning himself, and then washed away the white powder on the ground with water, and then returned to his camp quite safely. However, these game are also rare good things. Although Yifeng felt guilty for accidentally killing so many beasts, Yifeng couldn't help drooling when he thought of their flesh. You know, food is extremely hard to come by in this world. Let's take martial arts as an example. Their minds are all on cultivation, and they don't have much appetite at all. On the other hand, mortals from another class are thinking about how to make a living, and they don't spend too much time on their appetite. They just need to be able to satisfy their hunger. They don't even know what to do if you throw him a pig's trotter. Therefore, food is very expensive in this world, which is why a bowl of beef noodles costs a gold coin. Therefore, in his eyes at this moment, the corpses of these animals are plates of braised pig trotters, cold leopard meat, roasted whole wolves. It's just that the idea is good, but taking so many things down the mountain has become a problem. Guarding the golden mountain in the air. Hold. Yi Feng cursed, and sat back on the bluestone with a speechless face. Bored, he took out the acoustic guitar. Pass the time. Yi Feng's palm gently rested on the strings, and the melodious guitar sound spread throughout the mountains and forests. At this moment, the long-lost system sound sounded in Yi Feng's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for activating the new mission. Oh! Yi Feng stood up abruptly, with a look of anticipation in his eyes, hoping that the system would find out in his conscience and give him something that could become a cultivator. Task content. Practice piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting to the level of gods. Reward. Amount. I wipe Nima. After listening to the system's voice, Yi Feng's hope failed again, and he suddenly burst into a huge foul language. I thought it was a good thing, but it turned out to be these miscellaneous tasks. If you say it's a little useless, let's take the boxer and iron for example, it's hard for him to support himself. Even when he finally got rich, he relied on the ability of his transmigrators to write it, and it has nothing to do with this broken system. But that's all, at least it didn't make him starve to death all these years. But his mother's piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, he really can't think of any use. Is it used to cultivate sentiment? Of course, what makes him complain the most is the quest reward. He didn't forget that when the system gave him a task to run the martial arts hall, it was set to reward him as a super expert. He was looking forward to it at that time, thinking that the peak of his life was coming, but what kind of blow did the reality bring to him? Said to be a super expert, but it is a half-dead skull. He admits that it's scary to look at, but it's useless except to cause trouble. So mounts. Ha ha, I bother. Yi Feng took a sip of hatred. He didn't believe that this broken system could really reward him with a good mount, and there was a high probability that he would come up with another stupid thing. Therefore, he was too lazy to complete this task. In a fit of anger, Yi Feng kicked the guitar in his hand away with one kick, and he was angry when he saw it. But just after he kicked it, the sound of the system came again. Punishment for mission failure. Take back the martial arts hall, no longer belong to the host. Nani? Yi Feng's face immediately turned black, and his anger was about to burst out. Although those skills are useless, but this martial arts hall is his safe place. Even if he is rich now, he can buy another house, but the feelings and sense of belonging of these years cannot be bought. You are cruel. Yi Feng cursed in his mouth, picked up the guitar again, and played the dongfengpo with a crackle. Who is playing a tune of dongfengpo with the pipa? While playing the guitar, he hummed the classic songs of the previous life in his mouth. On the surface, he seemed to use this to eliminate the unhappiness in his heart, but in fact, it was Yi Feng who succumbed to the power of the system. If there is an accident in Renhao, my Li family will not end with your swordsman sect. At this moment, accompanied by a strong aura, 2 streams of light swept towards the mountain range. Hearing this, Shu Mazu's face was ugly. Originally, he just came to the mountain to complete a small task, but he never thought that his disciple Li Renhao would encounter such a bizarre thing. And it just so happened that Li Renhao's aunt, Li Jiaxin came to see Li Renhao at Yujianzong, and this happened. However, despite what Li Jiaxin said, Shumazu did not have the slightest temper. Who made the Li family the top 3 in the entire Nansha family? It's just that Renhao's message said that there are monsters in the mountains, but apart from some little monsters, the strongest one is the centipede in his hand. Li Jiaxin looked around and said, but this centipede is quite funny, seeing me too actually pretending to be dead, it's worth taking it back, it's a priceless medicinal herb. Yeah. Fortunately, this kind of change is a good thing for Renhao. Shu Mazu sighed and said, obviously not interested in centipedes, only full of worries in his heart. Li Renhao is his disciple and the senior sister of swordsman sect, but also a member of the Li family, but there is really no accident. I hope so. The two watched the movement of the mountains below and passed by. That is. At this moment, Li Jiaxin who was in flight suddenly slowed down, and finally stopped. Hearing this, Shumazu also looked over, and then widened his eyes. He couldn't help stammering because of his state of mind. Then, that's more than 100 demon spirits, and the corpses of more than 10 demon kings. Good. Li Jiaxin also nodded solemnly, and could not help but subconsciously sucked in cold air. This kind of handwriting is simply terrifying. After all, if such a lineup is put together, even if she is the martial emperor, I am afraid it will not be good. What's more, monsters have always been united, so wouldn't they be afraid of poking a hornet's nest? She asked herself that she might have the ability to kill so many demon spirits and demon kings, but she didn't necessarily have the courage to do it. No wonder the demon kings and demon spirits in this mountain are gone. It turns out that they all died here. Shumazu calmed down and said in shock, "It's just, who is doing such a big deal? It should be him." Li Jiaxin looked sharply at Yifeng, who was surrounded by many corpses. Shumazu frowned and said, "But he has no breath, he looks like a mortal." "It's hard to say." Li Jiaxin shook his head and said, "Aren't mortals afraid of being surrounded by so many corpses of monsters? There's a high probability that it's someone who practices special exercises and can't see clearly." "That's true." Shumazu nodded. "If he is really immortal, then this matter is too unreasonable. This person should also be a martial emperor. Let's go say hello, and ask what's going on by the way," Li Jiaxin said, and his body swept away at the same time. Shumazu nodded and followed at the same time. Ding! Congratulations to the host for practicing the Qin to perfection. Listening to the sound of this system, Yifeng was not disturbed. After all, he was still far from being on par with God. Based on past experience, Yifeng knows that these can be roughly divided into 7 states. First glimpse, small achievement, consummate, superb, unparalleled in the world, returning to the original, and standing shoulder to shoulder with gods. It would take at least several months for him to practice all the piano, chess, calligraphy and painting to the level of God. And he is also lucky, perhaps because he used to play the guitar a lot, his piano skills have reached a state of perfection after only a few songs, which can save him a lot of effort. Practice again. It's boring anyway. Yifeng rested for a while, and then picked up the guitar again. First, he wanted to practice these quickly, but the broken system was saved to his martial arts hall. Second, Yifeng was really bored at the moment. However, when the tune sounded, Li Jiaxin, who was rushing towards Yifeng, trembled all over, and the whole person immediately stopped in place. What is this man playing in his hand, Qin? Seeing this, Shumazu couldn't help but let out a suspicious voice. To shut up. However, Li Jiaxin scolded him coldly. Shumazu's face was a little ugly. After all, he was also the emperor of Wu. It was really unbearable to scolded him so shamelessly. Just as he was about to refute, he found that Li Jiaxin closed his eyes excitedly. Just when he was wondering, Li Jiaxin made another voice. "I don't mean to scold you, you just need to listen to this song quietly and you will understand why I am like this." Shumazu frowned, disapprovingly. However, he still did what he did, but when he calmed down, his casual expression changed immediately and a strong shock was revealed. There is actually a powerful Qin meaning in this Qin sound. Shumazu's face was shocked, and he finally understood why Li Jiaxin was so nervous. After knowing that the sound of the piano contained the meaning of the piano, without Li Jiaxin saying it, he also closed his mouth wisely, and quietly felt the artistic conception from the sound of the piano. The sound of the piano is long. Implement into the ear. Among them, the artistic conception suddenly pulled Shumazu back to the memories of a long, long time. Once upon a time, Shumazu, the sword of the swordsman sect, declared far-reaching, was just a young boy from a poor family, fantasizing that one day he could become a martial arts cultivator. He hit a wall and was injured. Whenever he was unable to support him, when he returned to that dilapidated house, there would always be a mouthful of hot rice and soup, and the kind old woman would always help him sew the loose clothes and wash them out. Brand new shoes. "Mozu, I believe you are the best." These words always echoed in his ears before, the gradually hunched back, the kind smile and tender concern, his old mother. Time flies, time flies. More than 1,000 years have passed without knowing it, and Shumazu realized that the voice had been blurred many years ago. That gentle exhortation has not appeared in my mind for a long time. And the once immature teenager has finally grown into a generation of giants. But she, no longer. Mother. Before he knew it, the sound of the piano had stopped, and Shumazu couldn't come out of his memory for a long time. The dignified sword master sect great elder had tears in his eyes at this moment. It seems that it is our dog's eyes that look down on people. At this time, Li Jiaxin next to him also heard a soft voice, "Where is this martial emperor? Just based on the meaning of the piano, at least he is like a Wu Zun." The presence. While speaking, Li Jiaxin also lowered her head and wiped the corners of her eyes. It turned out that her eyes were red, and she didn't know which memory the piano sound touched in her heart. Wu Zun, no wonder. Shumazu glanced at Li Jiaxin. A half-step Wuzong powerhouse like Li Jiaxin would be like this. I am afraid that only a Wuzun powerhouse with a level higher than Wuzong can do it. Let's go, let's meet and greet. Li Jiaxin took a deep breath, her expression became much more solemn, and her tone changed from greeting to greeting. Shumazu nodded. The two swept away, smeared out, and flew towards Yi Feng's location. Oh, some practice. Yi Feng's face was speechless, and at the same time he shook his slightly sore arm. He seemed to hear the sound, and he looked up quickly and found two figures flying towards him. A practitioner again. Yi Feng was slightly surprised, looking at the flying gestures of the two. His heart also showed a longing look. If his broken system is a little more reliable, I am afraid that he can be like this now, right? However, it is not too rude to meet the cultivator Yi Feng again. After all, it is not the first time that he has dealt with cultivators, such as that Luo Lanzu, and the sword-wielding girl he met in the mountains this time, practitioners. It's just that Yi Feng didn't understand a little bit, what did these two call him? Finally, the two fell in front of him. And Yi Feng also put down the guitar in his hand and stood up. However, Yi Feng thought that the two of them had something to do with him, but suddenly bowed to him, and at the same time a respectful voice came out. Li Jiaxin, Shumazu, meet the seniors. The two spoke in unison, and at the same time carefully looked at the protagonist. They were surprised to find that even if they were close at hand, they still couldn't detect the slightest fluctuation in Yi Feng's body. Involuntarily, the two of them looked at each other, and their hearts were filled with stormy waves. Is it immortal? This is impossible. The sound of the piano alone will make them fall into it, which is impossible for a mortal to do. Wu Zun, hammer it. However, Yi Feng's face was full of confusion, and the two Wushu flew over and called him what the senior was, so they said, I'm afraid you two have made a mistake. I'm not a senior, I'm just a mortal who came to the mountain to collect medicine. And with mortal, Yi Feng's words immediately made Li Jiaxin and Shumazu stunned. Did they both get it wrong? Is the young man in front of him really just a mortal with superb piano skills? Just when the two were thinking so, Li Jiaxin suddenly saw something, her pupils shrank suddenly, and while feeling deeply shocked, she did not forget to wink at Shumazu who was beside her. Hearing this, Shumazu turned his gaze and shuddered suddenly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.